there. Durban, Pietermaritzburg checks fine in both directions. And Cape Town, if you're coming out of Mitchell's Plain, we saw this late last week, Thursday, Friday, an improvement on the M7. This morning, it looks clear. So the M7 coming out of Mitchell's Plain, first time for a long time that is clear. And the knock-on effect is it will significantly ease congestion through the Strandfontein area as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. Let's kick off with soccer action over the weekend. It's the Betway Premiership. It was a weekend of shocks and survivals. We'll start with Marumo Gallant's stunning TX Galaxy and we'll bring you the rest as well. And speaking of which, there was tennis action as Novak Djokovic, who was spotted with an eye injury, lost in the final of the Miami Open to Jakub Mensik. Details around 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Monday, the 31st of March, 2025 has dawned. You're listening to SAFM on 104 to 107 nationwide. We've curated a selection of some of the most consequential news and current affairs stories, and from here at home, across the continent and around the world, and packaged them into your morning brief. Good morning, I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and I'm here to present your morning brief. Among what we'll tell you over the next 3 hours will be these stories. Calls are amplifying for justice for a 7-year-old child raped allegedly at a school in Matatiele and allegedly by one or more staff members at that school. The incident happened in October last year, but it would seem the police investigation has been sluggish, if moving at all. The mother of the child delivering on social media a heart-rending call for justice that has resonated with South Africans from all walks of life. So we'll give you an update on that story coming up. You've seen the calls. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You've seen the calls for justice. So we'll give you an update on that story in the second hour of the show. In politics, the ANC says while it's committed to restoring normal diplomatic relations with the United States, this will not be pursued at the expense of compromising on the principles that underpin the country's international relations policies. Specifically, the member of the ANC's subcommittee on international relations, Ronald Lamula, who is also the international relations minister, says the party will not compromise on its belief in human rights and upholding international law, won't be asking government to withdraw its International Court of Justice case against Israel, and won't compromise on the pursuit of redress of past injustices here at home. So we'll give you an update on that story at the top of 7 with the senior SABC News political reporter Samgele Masego, who's been watching the National Executive Committee, because much more than that issue actually came out from the NEC, including that impasse that seems to be persisting as far as the budget is concerned. Speaking of the budget, then, we'll immediately off the back of that conversation with Samgele then speak to the Democratic Alliance's Ville Okamp, who will reflect for us on what this impasse around the budget represents. It would seem it really is a major issue, especially for the DA. Some reports suggesting that the DA sees this as a red line, especially if the ANC were to go ahead and seek the support and perhaps get the support. I don't know from where, but seek and perhaps get the support and be able to get the budget over the line without the DA's support. It would seem that would represent a major red line. But Ville Okamp will clarify it all for us, and that's coming up in the second hour of the show. Then in this hour, at about 10 to 7, we'll reflect on this story. So if you're on social media and follow news coming out of Mpumalanga province, you probably will have been intrigued by the number of incidents involving elephants escaping from the Kruger National Park and other conservancies in the province over the last 2 years or so, ending up in communities and in a few instances ending up being killed by residents or euthanized by officials from the Kruger National Park. The area of Matsulu in the Mbombela municipality has become particularly notorious over the past few years for human-elephant encounters that sometimes end tragically for the animals. So recently escaped Kruger National Park elephants had residents of Pinar, also in Mpumalanga, fearing for their lives, only for them to be recaptured by SANParks officials. So what's going on? Are the elephants escaping more from the Kruger National Park, or are the few instances being amplified by social media and sharing of videos? But what does it say also about the elephant population and the ability of the Kruger National Park officials to manage the elephant population at the Kruger? We'll be in conversation with Dr. Sam Ferreira, who is the large mammal ecologist for SANParks based at Skukuza in the Kruger National Park. And that conversation is coming up at about 10 to 7 this morning. The team is at full strength once again for you this morning, and Musa with news updates at the top and the bottom of every hour. Rob Byrne with your traffic every 15 minutes or so. Zaikan is watching your sport throughout the morning. Dauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered. Sipho Mantula with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. I'll be taking your calls on these and other issues that may be exercising your mind this morning. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. On social media, we are at SAFM Radio on X, we are SAFM Radio on Facebook and Instagram, and we are live on our YouTube channel that is SAFM Radio. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The first hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Masandawana have a master plan to win in their own backyard, to ease off the pressure before the trip to the north. But the Beast of Africa want to demonstrate why they are also called the Smiling One. This is the first leg quarterfinal battle of the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Do not miss out on the delight of African football. Mamelodi Sundowns versus Esperance de Tunis on Tuesday, 1 April at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC Plus. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Hey, and good morning to you.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you doing?
All good. How are we looking on the diary?
Well, Fees Must Fall activist and MK party commander Boinkosi Kanyile is leading a march this morning. This from Pretoria to the Constitutional Court, and it is to demand accountability for alleged stolen MK votes in last year's general elections. And the march is themed Where is My Vote? And it seeks to raise awareness about the disputed votes and push for judiciary accountability. So this walk is expected to take about 14 hours. We're also looking at the outcomes of the ANC-NEC meeting, which took place over the weekend, with the 2025 budget topping the agenda, and the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa confident that the budget will be approved on Wednesday. Civil organizations and political parties demanding justice for the 7-year-old learner who was allegedly raped at a private school in Matatiele in the Eastern Cape. And this incident happened in October of 2024. It has sparked widespread public outcry, with many taking to social media to call for swift action. And in court, a 27-year-old man believed to be linked to the murder of 6 patrollers at Merimi Informal Settlement in Shoshanguve in Pretoria is expected to appear in court today, and he faces charges of murder. 2 other accused appeared in the same court last week and had their cases postponed to tomorrow. And shocking scenes of broad daylight robberies in Bloemfontein CBD went viral on social media. 12 people have been arrested for the alleged robberies, and they are expected to appear in the local magistrates' court today. The Iqorta Minister, Belinkosini Hlabisa, also expected to announce the funding allocations for disaster to dispersed provinces, and the funds comes at a time when provinces face extreme weather-induced disasters, and the allocation is seen as a stepping stone for communities to build back and also restore their dignity. And just lastly, the Enyobeni inquest expected to resume in the East London Regional Court. It's expected that the owner and his wife may take the stand to testify. But on that note, wishing everyone celebrating Eid, a blessed Eid Mubarak. Muslim worshippers gathered in Sea Point in Cape Town last night, and the moon was sighted, so it marked the end of the holy month of Ramadan.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's Ann Musa. Look out for more updates coming through from Ann every half hour here on the Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
Let's get you ready with your weather now and tell you how it's looking on this Monday. So we start with one impact-based warning from the South African Weather Service. It's a yellow level 2 warning. It says severe thunderstorms resulting in damaging winds, excessive lightning, hail, and heavy downpours leading to localized flooding are expected over the extreme northeastern parts of KwaZulu-Natal in the morning. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria will be partly cloudy, becoming cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 26. Johannesburg, partly cloudy, becoming cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 16 to 24. Mbombela, partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 18 to 27. Bulukwane will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 16 to 27. Mahikeng will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 18 to 28. Bloemfontein, partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 16 to 28. Kimberley, same conditions, partly cloudy, windy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 17 to 29. Uppington will be partly cloudy, windy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 18 to 33. Cape Town will be cloudy, becoming partly cloudy, 17 to 25. George, cloudy to partly cloudy with morning light rain with a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 23. Gqeberha will be cloudy with isolated showers and rain in the morning, otherwise partly cloudy with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 23. East London will be cloudy with light showers at first, otherwise partly cloudy with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 24. Durban will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 23 to 27. Richards Bay will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 21 to 30. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog patches, otherwise cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 27.
Something big is coming. 6:30 will never be the same. Amalanga Wafani, only on SABC 1.
Akwele.
Akwele.
Akweli.
Akwela.
Akwele.
Akwili.
Akwele.
No matter how you say it, one thing's for sure. Aquele is South Africa's most loved water brand, refreshing you with pure natural spring water and delicious flavored sparkling drinks. From every sip to every smile, thank you Mzansi for making Aquele a part of your everyday moments. Aquele, spreading joy to South Africa naturally.
What you're about to hear is not an email from Standard Bank. Good day, Dave. You haven't updated your details, so your account will soon be blocked. Please confirm your card number, bank PIN, card CVV number by clicking the link below. What? Don't fall for it. Standard Bank will never ask for your banking details in an email. Visit our help center on the banking app to learn more or call our fraud line on 0800 222 050. Another lesson to #beat the scam. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
21 minutes after 6. Let's focus on this story now. A powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake has rocked Myanmar on Saturday, with its epicenter near the city of Sagaing on March 28, 2025. The massive quake has left more than 1,700 people dead and thousands injured, with widespread destruction across the region. Aftershocks continued to shake the area, with tremors felt as far as Thailand and China. Rescue teams are racing to save lives, but efforts are being hampered by Myanmar's ongoing political turmoil. Let's speak now to Simon Gear, a climatologist. Good morning to you, Simon. It's good to talk to you. It's been a while. 7.7 magnitude on the Richter scale is massive. And in fact, when I saw the visuals coming out of there, I had concerns about what would be happening in other regions of Asia. But thankfully, we've only had that situation as devastating as it is. 7.7 magnitude is really massive on the Richter scale.
It is indeed. So essentially, the way the Richter scale works is for every whole number you go up, the magnitude of the earthquake doubles. So 7 is really, really big. And certainly the destruction that we saw in Myanmar indicates that. Because of the geology of the region, we then got waves moving out from that earthquake to quite a long way away, and Bangkok getting affected a good distance to the southwest.
So tell me about you were talking a few moments ago about the Richter scale. I remember the 2004, the earthquake that triggered the tsunami in 2004 was quite massive. What's the highest we've ever gone on the Richter scale as far as an earthquake is concerned?
The highest is somewhere in the 9s, and I think the one that caused the tsunami was in that sort of magnitude, but it was right out in the middle of the ocean. So the destruction that was caused by the 2014 tsunami it was 2004, wasn't it? Yeah, that one in 2014 was Japan. Yeah. I was having to quickly work out where I was in my career at that point. For Japan, I was doing a Cricket World Cup. So that was a huge earthquake, but it was in the middle of the ocean, and then it was the waves, in the ocean that then caused all the damage. No one actually had their houses shaken down. And certainly, there is a great fear with some of the major faults in the world. The one that Tokyo is built on, the one that Los Angeles is built, or San Francisco is built on, that a major, 8+ earthquake will happen at some point. And it is specifically these types of faults. So these are faults where two tectonic plates are moving past each other.
Yeah.
So if you imagine squeezing your hands together and then trying to push one up and one down, and you squeeze hard so that you'll push and push and push, they won't move, and then suddenly they'll move. And that's exactly what happens with these. So you have this build-up over time, and then suddenly there's a movement. So this Myanmar fault is between the Indian tectonic plate, which is the one that's moving northwards, crashing into Asia, and that's what causes the Himalayas, and a much smaller fault, a much smaller tectonic plate to the east. And it last had a similar type of earthquake in the late 1800s. So there is history here, but it doesn't happen very often.
Sure. Say a bit more about the geography of it. Tell me a bit more about that fault line. You're saying that there's a history of major earthquakes in that region. What's the geography that explains it?
Yeah, so people probably, this is an area that as South Africans we're not that familiar with. But essentially you've got Thailand to the east and Myanmar, or World War II aficionados will know it as Burma, to the west, and then you've got the Bay of Bengal, and on the other side of that is India. and that's the Indian plate is, India and the Bay of Bengal, and then parts of Myanmar, and then you've got the small Burma plate. And what happened is you had this slip begin in central Myanmar, and then it actually fractured south, and then Bangkok is out to the southwest. Now, Bangkok is interesting because it's built on reasonably soft clay that can get wobbled quite easily. And so it's quite susceptible to earthquakes that even areas around it might not necessarily have felt. And that's why you had a few, some damage in Bangkok, but not necessarily damage between the main area in Myanmar and central Thailand.
Yeah.
And then the sort of area that got badly damaged, I mean, that's just because it was right under this fault and very, very close to the epicenter.
So that was going to be my next question, Simon, about the extent of the damage. Is it typical for this magnitude earthquake? But you mentioned one factor, the soil conditions in Bangkok, which is quite fascinating, and I didn't know that. But what are the other factors that account for the scale of the damage we've seen?
So, I mean, I think there's a couple of things going on. Myanmar's not the most stable of countries at the moment. So you probably find that there are issues with building codes and all of those sort of things. I don't know that for certain. That's just a hypothesis. But generally, places like Japan, which, every new building is built with a major earthquake in mind, can get away with quite substantial earthquakes with actually relatively little damage, although they have had some spectacular problems in the past, and will have in the future. There's going to be a major earthquake in Japan at some point, but they engineer everything with that in mind. So in this region, there's a lot of sort of quite cheap structures going up. We saw that astonishing picture of that unfinished high-rise building that collapsed in the city in Bangkok, which was really amazing and terrifying. And that was 1,000 kilometers from the epicenter of the earthquake. But as I explained earlier, not too much damage between Bangkok and there because the geology is different. So you've got those sort of issues. You've got quite densely populated cities in those areas as well. So lots of people in structures that are maybe 4 to 5 stories high and maybe not built with major earthquakes in mind. All of those sort of things. Plus the fact that this was a significant earthquake. This would have caused damage in any city in the world.
Yeah. Just lastly, Simon, does Japan remain the standard in as far as earthquake proofing your cities?
Yeah, I think a combination of very strict law enforcement around the way that they build their structures and astonishing engineering for earthquaking high rises and those sort of things. So their structures are built to sway in an earthquake, and even that major tsunami, the nuclear power station that caused all the problems and concerns, still withstood that event incredibly well. I mean, every natural disaster that could have been thrown in a morning at a structure was thrown at that nuclear power station, and although it was damaged, it still, retained its structure. So the Japanese are very, very good at this. The Americans, I think, also build with a lot of this in mind on their east coast. So it's places that need to worry about it too. Here in South Africa, we're never going to have an earthquake of this magnitude because we're just not near those sort of places, and so we don't need to take the expense and the legal effort to protect ourselves from them necessarily.
All right. Thank you for those insights. Quite fascinating. That's Simon Gear, climatologist there, reflecting on the earthquake that happened on Saturday in Myanmar. And that brings us to 6:30. Let's check in with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the Thulasizwe Simelane will lead a Where Is My Vote walk from 8 o'clock this morning from the city of Tshwane to the Constitutional Court in Johannesburg in Gauteng. The walk is expected to take 14 hours. Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Mamoloko Kubai says it's important that all South Africans protect institutions that uphold the rule of law, especially the National Prosecuting Authority. Kubai opened a case of fraud, impersonation and obstruction of justice yesterday. And Muslims across the country will celebrate Eid al-Fitr today. The new moon was sighted in South Africa last night. The announcement was made to hundreds of worshippers who gathered in Cape Town. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Crash on Jetberg's Mike 1 south in the Braamfontein area, just down by Empire Road. So slow coming into that as you arrive from Parktown, but there's a really big onlooking impact going on. So the Mike 1 north from Boysons and the M2 from Joe Slovo Drive getting into the crowd to turn north onto the Mike 1 very heavy. N3 is pretty slow this morning as well from Germiston all the way through to Galuli's interchange, and a crash on the N14. This is the Krugersdorp Highway. It's between Muldersdrift and the Lanceria 512 exit. There's quite a heavy backlog on that N14. If you know the 114, the alternative road, you could take that at Muldersdrift and come back on at Malabongwe and just work your way on the alternative side road around that one. The R21, it crashed just past Bopsfontein Road. If you're on your way from Pretoria to the airport, queuing pressure into that one as well. Highways around Durban looking good. And good news coming out of Cape Town. The options out of Mitchell's Plain this morning as far as the M7 highway goes, a lot better than it has been for many, many weeks. It's a change up in the roadworks there. Also Eid Day, and as well as that, it's a school holiday as well. So if you're coming out of Mitchell's Plain, you've got a good run through. There's also a very heavy traffic on the Stellenbosch Arterial from Blackheath. That's all jammed up. Some traffic light faults as you line up through them towards the R300 highway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you. Tell me about, you're saying it was a weekend of shock and awe in the Betway, in the Betway shock and awe.
But we are, what is the word? Intentionally leaving out one particular team.
Yeah.
Who now want their coach fired.
Yeah, no, let's do that. Let's Let's curate what we talk about this morning.
That's exactly it. It's a Monday. Let's keep it positive. We're going with Maruma Gallants, right? They stunned TS Galaxy. 2-1 was the win at Mbombela Stadium. A result giving their relegation battle a serious lifeline. The Rockets' CAF dreams took a hit while Gallants slowly climbing out of the drop zone. Now, earlier in the day, Polokwane City ended their 7-match winless run with a 3-1 victory over Richards Bay, tightening the race for a top 4 finish. And SuperSport, who remain second last on the Betway Premiership after a 0-0 draw with fellow strugglers Cape Town City. Elsewhere, Marcus Rashford got off the mark for Aston Villa, netting twice as Unai Emery's team made the FA Cup semi-finals with a 3-0 win at Preston. Here's Emery and his assessment of the game.
Today we decided to play in the starting 11 as a striker to try to get off him his qualities, his power, exploiting and feeling confidence. The first half, not completely, but the second half, scoring goals, of course. But the process we have with him is more or less not changing, and still work to do, still adaptation to get.
In the meantime, Manchester City fought back from behind courtesy of an excellent second-half performance, beating Bournemouth 2-1 to set up an FA Cup semi-final with Nottingham Forest. In another encounter, Robert Lewandowski bagged a brace as Barcelona eased to a 4-1 victory over Girona to move 3 points clear at the top of La Liga. Cricket action, Dewald Brevis and Keegan Peterson scored outstanding centuries in the Titans match, which they drew with the Northwest Dragons in Cricket South Africa's 4-day series encounter at SuperSport Park. The match was brought to a halt by lightning. They determined that no other result was possible given the time left in the game. And tennis action, the 19-year-old Czech Jakub Mensik beat his childhood idol Novak Djokovic 7-6, 7-6 in an upset for the ages, claiming his first ATP title at the Miami Open. He denied the former number 1 Djokovic his bid for a milestone 100th title. That's a wrap. We'll have more sport here on the Morning Brief. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ntauleng Lechela. Ntauleng, you're a lover of acronyms, and sometimes it's 6 a.m. on a Monday morning and I just don't feel like figuring out what you're talking about. What is the PCE? And what
sometimes,
do you mean that it has ticked higher in March?
yes. Sometimes I just like explaining things to you and everyone at home.
Yeah,
so
I know. I
I
figured.
just confuse you a bit. So the PCE is an inflation gauge. It's the personal consumption expenditure index. And it's a measure of the total amount spent by households on goods and services. And it also just measures, the everyday kind of spend by household, which is a more accurate measure or inflation measure for the Fed. And that's why it is the preferred measure by the Fed. Now, it's increased, the core PCE increased by 0.4% in February, exceeding expectations. And this brought the 12-month inflation rate to 2.8%, surpassing the anticipated 2.7%. Consumer spending grew 0.4% for the month, falling short of the projected 0.5% increase. But personal income rose 0.8%, surpassing the estimated 0.4%. Now, this inflation reading has implications for the Fed's interest rates decision. The central bank has been on hold this year after cutting rates by a full percentage point in 2024. Now, Ellen Zettner, who is the chief economic strategist at Morgan Stanley Wealth Management, noted that the inflation reading, while higher than expected, was not exceptionally high. She added that it wouldn't speed up the Fed's timeline for cutting interest rates, especially given the uncertainty surrounding tariffs. Now, the report highlights the ongoing impact of President Donald Trump's tariff intentions on inflation concerns. Economists generally view tariffs as one-off events, but the scope of Trump's tariffs and the potential for a global trade war have changed the stakes.
And then tell me about China's factory activity. You're saying that it has continued to recover in March?
That's right, Thulas. And this month in March, it's seen its fastest growth in a year, with the official Purchasing Managers Index reaching 50.5 points in March. This improvement suggests that Beijing's stimulus measures are paying off, helping to prop up the country's economic recovery. Now, the PMI has been steadily improving since January, when it contracted to 49.1% and then expanded to 50.2% in February. The non-manufacturing PMI, which covers services and construction, also rose to 50.8 from 50.4 in February. Now, to achieve a growth target of around 5% this year, Chinese policymakers have pledged to increase monetary and fiscal stimulus. This includes expanding consumer goods trade-in schemes and accelerating government debt issuance to ease housing woes and deflationary pressures. But looming U.S. tariffs pose a threat to this growth. Of course, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has imposed additional tariffs on Chinese goods, prompting Beijing to retaliate with tariffs on select U.S. goods. Now, the situation remains uncertain, of course, with Trump set to unveil new tariffs this week. Despite these challenges, China's economy has shown some resilience, with industrial output and fixed asset investment growing more than expected. Exports, while slowing down, remain a bright spot.
Recap for us, Ntauling, how the week ended in as far as the markets go, but also how Asia has been looking.
So red screens across the board, Thulas, as markets await the new round of tariffs to kick in. With that, U.S. stocks closed in negative territory in last week's session, the tech-heavy Nasdaq being the most impacted, losing 2.7% in Friday's close. And that downbeat sentiment also being experienced here at home, the all-share losing 0.36%, and that fueled by losses in the financial 15. Big banks taking a knock, with Capitec, FirstRand and ABSA among the biggest losers on Friday. Weakness on the currency front as well, as the rand trades above the 18.30 mark to the dollar, at 18.43 to the greenback this hour. Meanwhile, in Asia this morning, trade jitters also weighing, with the Japanese Nikkei taking the biggest hit, leading the losses there, down over 4%.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauling Lechela there with her first report for the morning. She'll be back with another one with more insights, and that's coming up just after 7:30 here on The Morning Brief.
Something big is coming. 6:30 will never be the same. Amalanga Wafani, only on SABC 1.
Akwele.
Akwele.
Akweli.
Akwela.
Akwele.
Akwili.
Akwele.
No matter how you say it, one thing's for sure. Akwele is South Africa's most loved water brand, refreshing you with pure natural spring water and delicious flavored sparkling drinks. From every sip to every smile, thank you Mzansi for making Akwele a part of your everyday moments. Akwele, spreading joy to South Africa naturally.
Masandawana have a master plan to win in their own backyard, to ease off the pressure before the trip to the north. But the Beast of Africa want to demonstrate why they are also called the Smiling One. This is the first leg quarterfinal battle of the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Do not miss out on the delight of African football. Mamelodi Sundowns versus Esperance de Tunis on Tuesday, 1 April at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC Plus. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
18 minutes to 7. Calls are amplifying for justice for a 7-year-old child raped allegedly at a school in Matatiele and allegedly by one or more staff members of that school. The incident happened in October last year, but it would seem the police investigation has been sluggish, if moving at all. The mother of the child delivering a heart-rending call for justice that has resonated with South Africans from all walks of life. Let's speak now to Advocate Brenda Madumise Pajibo, who is the Director for Wise for Africa. Good morning and thank you for your time. So as I say, this is an incident that happened in October last year. How is it that there have been no arrests as far as we can tell, no real investigation to speak of until now, as a result, coming now as a result perhaps of some of the pressure that is now being brought to bear?
Hi, good morning to listeners. I think, we're going to sound like broken records when we talk about the swiftness and the promptness that we have always been advocating for in these kinds of cases by the South African Police Service. That you need to ask yourself, why is it that you as a police officer, when a matter is reported to yourselves, you don't prioritize and treat it with urgency like you will do with any other cases where you are bold enough and you go out and you investigate thoroughly. So I struggle with, why is it that an individual or individuals within the South African Police Service saw it fit that they can take their time and not do anything, and in just delaying, they don't recognize what it does to parents, what it does to families, what it even does to all of us as citizens of this country, how we can get back the confidence that we should have on our police officers.
And the manner in which the mother of the child has taken to social media and is availing herself for these conversations and interviews with media, does that talk to the desperation of a parent seeing that nothing is moving in as far as this case is concerned? Because it's unusual, isn't it? Usually you want to protect the identity of the victim, especially where it's a child, but the mother speaking out in this way, what does it tell us about her thirst for justice and the sense that perhaps that thirst for justice will not be quenched?
She's desperate. She's at her wit's end, right? Something like this has happened to a 7-year-old, her own child, a 7-year-old. She is frustrated by the school, the attitude of the school, how long they also took, and still not coming forward to assist. Because remember, the child was at the premises, she was still at the school waiting to be picked up, right? So she's frustrated by the school for not moving on the matter and even supporting them as a family, just to give them whatever support they require. And then you move on to the next one with the South African Police Service. We've not done anything. So you leave citizens of this country to be desperate and resort to other alternative ways to find justice, and it's not right. I think we need to hammer on it that we cannot be subjected to seeking ways to make those responsible and those charged, and we've got a constitutional mandate to look after the interest of citizens to act. We can't be at this point and still trying to force South African Police Service to act swiftly and promptly. We can't be in that. You can't make your citizens helpless, and that's where we are.
And the other feature that I noticed, Advocate, is, I don't know, you can talk to it better, the sense of being believed when a person, a victim, a survivor says, this is what happened to me. I think I picked that up from what purports to be a letter from the school written in December, where there's a line that says, and I quote here, kindly note that there is at this stage no evidence that this unfortunate incident happened on our school premises. That kind of attitude, how problematic is it? I mean, even if you're saying it didn't happen on the school premises, it happened to a child in the school community where the allegation is that one or more staff members may have been involved.
Yeah, we rushed, and it's not an isolated incident. It happens all the time, and with cases such as these, and that's why, as WISE, we ran a campaign, Believe Her, because the first thing when you do tell and share with someone senior or your parents, they don't believe you that this has happened to you. We shut our minds to believe that something like this could happen to a 7-year-old. We shut it when a woman tells you that my CEO has been inappropriate with me, he touched me uncomfortably. We don't want to believe it, because, I mean, if you go back to the Judge Benenga's case, South Africa struggled with how it's not possible that the judge could have been inappropriate.
Yeah.
And so that our line of defense and what we resort to is to not to believe the victim, because there's no way that this victim versus the judge this could have happened and the judge could have done this. So even in this case with the 7-year-old, you still find people who still believe that it's not possible, the school being the first one, right? Instead of being comforting and being empathetic to the child first and giving the necessary support so that the child is comfortable. That's not what you resort to. That's not what you first say in such a matter, but it's a practice where you don't believe victims.
All right, thank you for sharing those insights once again. That's Advocate Brenda Madumise-Pajibo, who is Director of WISE for Africa. Certainly a sense that we are owed answers by many, many quarters. The authorities involved, the police officials in the Eastern Cape, what has happened in as far as investigating this case, other than opening a case, if indeed a case was opened, and the samples, we are told, have been taken from at least 2 of the people that are one way or another implicated in that incident. We are told that a third person not willing to subject themselves to those the taking of those samples. So certainly a story that we must continue to watch and seek answers and get full accountability here.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's interesting what's been happening for a while in terms of school holidays. It hasn't really had the impact that it used to have, the minimal sort of reduction in traffic. In fact, if you look at the Friday start of school holidays, there wasn't the real big push out like you would expect a couple of years ago. And what you get on a sort of Monday morning first day of school holidays is, as I was saying, just a sort of minimal reduction. There are some big delays around Gauteng this morning. The N14, a crash between Muldersdrift and Lanseria, the 512. That's a big, heavy delay if you're on your way to Pretoria, off-ramp at Muldersdrift. You used to have 114, the old Tinder, come back on at Malabongwe Drive on-ramp. That'll work out nicely around that. Crash on the Mike 1 at Empire Road, so going north from Boysons or Monday, that's heavy. M2 already pushing back to Joe Slovo to get into the Mike 1. Crash on the R21 airport bound, causing quite a heavy delay passing Tembisa towards the scene. The crash is just after the R25 Bobsfontein exit. If you're leaving Pretoria, you may want to off-ramp at Clayville, hit Olifantsfontein and then Pretoria Road. Road down, come back on at Whitfield. That'll work quite nicely. And if you're coming out of Pretoria down to Midrand, wondering what the N1 is like at school holidays, well, again, it's pretty normal. Heavy backlogs from Brockfontein all the way through to New Road this morning. Pietermaritzburg to Durban, still checking fine if you're on that commute. There's no major dramas in terms of crash scenes. There is a breakdown at Spaghetti Junction, so the N2 North's got some extra pressure as you come up from the M7 Bluff exit side. And Cape Town, I think we're entering week 3 of roadworks. 1 lane open, N7 Jake Scovell Drive, just after Fort Trekker Road. That traffic is heavy already, with a queue pushing back towards Frans Conradi. Try and stay off that N7 South until those roadworks are completed. It really can show you 30-minute delays from anywhere from 30 up to 50 minutes at times as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Algerian giants, the People's Club, plan to impress their home fans with victory before traveling to Mzansi, while the Buccaneers want to triumph away and complete the party in Orlando in the second leg. This is the first leg quarterfinal clash of the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Experience the incredible action of African football. MC Alger battles it out with Orlando Pirates on Tuesday, 1 April at 9 p.m. live on SABC 1, SABC radio stations and SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Akwele.
Akwele.
Akweli.
Akwela.
Akwele.
Akwili.
Akwele.
No matter how you say it, one thing's for sure. Aquele is South Africa's most loved water brand, refreshing you with pure natural spring water and delicious flavored sparkling drinks. From every sip to every smile, thank you Mzansi for making Aquele a part of your everyday moments. Aquele, spreading joy to South Africa naturally.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
It's coming up to 7 minutes to 7 here on the Morning Brief. The eThekwini Municipality's proposed 2.8 million rand rebranding initiative has sparked outrage among local ratepayers and residents. Critics are calling it a quote-unquote vanity project that diverts attention and resources away from the city's urgent infrastructure and service delivery issues. The rebranding effort, which aims to create a new city logo reflecting its evolving identity, has been met with strong opposition, particularly from organizations representing residents who argue that the funds should instead be spent on essential services like water, sanitation, and road repairs. I'm joined now by Ish Pralad, who is president of the eThekwini Residents Association. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Why are you so opposed to this rebranding exercise by the eThekwini municipality? On paper, 2.8 million rand in the bigger scheme of things doesn't seem like that much, especially when you are told it's coming from the communications budget anyway.
Morning to you, listeners. I think it's a disgrace when something like this is mentioned to do rebranding of vehicles when people are suffering without water. They're running around, they have no water, can't get tankers. And you're spending 2.8 million on something that's not even necessary, because all they do is they just put stickers on the vans, and that can't cost 2.8 million. And we've been even hearing that it's been passed through in 2017. So what I like to know is when budgets are passed and when they are not used, they are not added to the new budget, but they are just shelved. So why is this not being shelved? Because this is not a necessity. It's just an expense that's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be there.
What will you say to the argument that says the city is evolving, and this is the argument that the city leadership is presenting? The city is evolving, and the importance of branding eThekwini, particularly with the contribution of tourism to the economy, and ensuring that you have a strong brand that you can put out there that attracts investment and attracts tourists into the city.
As you know, there is no investment in this country at the moment, because I mean, even the outsiders are looking at us and they say, "Geez, man, these guys have got no water. The infrastructure is falling. How are we going to go and visit this country when there's sewer all over the street, the sewers in the beaches? What is tourism? Tourism means clean beaches, means clean place, good infrastructure. That is tourism, not rebranding. Rebranding doesn't make tourism better, really.
So what are the steps that you're going to take now? This proposal is on the table. How do you ensure that there's accountability for it?
Well, we're going to object on it. We are not going to say a yes for this rebranding. I think it's an unnecessary expense. It should be used elsewhere.
Right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's Ish Pralad, who is the president of the eThekwini Residents Association.
This is Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
To this now. So if you're on social media and follow news from Mpumalanga province, you probably would have been intrigued by the number of incidents involving elephants escaping from the Kruger National Park and other conservancies, ending up in communities and in a few instances ending up being killed or euthanized by residents or parks officials. The area of Matsulu in Mbombela Municipality has become particularly notorious over the past few years for human-elephant encounters that sometimes end tragically for the animal. And lately there was an incident in the area of Pinar also involving elephants escaping from the Kruger. Let's speak to Dr. Sam Ferreira, who is the large mammal ecologist from SANParks. He is based in Skukuza in the Kruger National Park. Good morning and thank you for your time. So there's quite a number of incidents. I mean, I went back in the timeline as far back as 30 January last year, all the way until the latest incident in Pinar, but also there were other incidents going back a couple of years ago. What's happening here? Are elephants escaping more, or has that not changed, that ratio? We're just capturing it on video more and sharing it widely on social media.
Yes, thank you, and good morning to the listeners. Yes, now elephants have been breaking out of or leaving Kruger and into the surrounding areas for quite a long time, actually even since way before 1994, even though elephant numbers were much lower then. And these breakouts these leaving of elephants out of the park is not just in Matsulu, it's actually across quite a number of hotspots along the western boundary of the park. And it happens sometimes daily. Most of the time it's seasonal, and often it's also unpredictable in certain localities. But I think Matsulu is a particular important example because part of it links to it also being abutted by some provincial reserves. So yes, as you know, in the environmental space, the provinces and national governments has got a concurrent requirement to deal with these issues. And certainly one of the challenges is that in some of the provincial reserves and also back in Matsulu, similar linkages or challenges are experienced with regards to elephants moving through fences.
Is it a factor of the elephant populations being out of control?
So elephants are attracted by key resources, and we have seen elephants leaving the park over a long time. Doesn't matter what the abundance was of elephants, and they're often outside the park because of natural vegetation that's there. You know, for example, when in the regulatory of doing fruiting. So the vegetation is the primary pull factor, along with some things like water sources and so forth, particularly in the dry season. A lot of the elephant incidents of leaving the park is really about how individual elephants are doing and how they are remembering things and uplifting. So, for example, long-lived bulls with learned behaviors are often the ones that are often going out there, you know, and go and try their luck, as it happens at various intensities across the place. But just one other important thing is that the impacts are not everywhere the same, you know. Because most elephants are going through natural vegetation, yes, sometimes they do destruct crop and infrastructure. For example, the Matsulu community is nearly a small town, and their landscape use is not necessarily farming, whereas the community not far away from there is a Sipilayani community, which of course experience farming. And these type of contexts will have a very different impact. In the Matsulu case, a popular fruit item is mangoes, and of course when those mangoes are all fruiting and a lot of people have got mangoes, it will be very attractant to elephants. And in those times that one has to be a bit more vigilant and think about how you can deal with these particular challenges.
Are there measures that can be taken to reduce this incidence, Doc?
Yes, there are very much measures, and most people within the community would like to have a fence. And yes, most of Kruger's down there has got fences. Quite often the purpose of a fence is not necessarily to keep elephants in, but it's actually for disease controls. But I think one of the big challenges is, a fence is not necessarily proof. Certainly any elephant that wants to go through a fence can do so. And especially when you've got things like streams crossing these fence lines, where we are trying to use dolosser, these breakwaters that you see at harvest, to help us there to at least put an effective barrier for elephants, at least deter them a little bit longer. Electrified fences often comes up, but usually you have to the challenges because you need solar panels and batteries, and those things are frequently stolen, as happens in cities. And I think one other important one is there is a recent upgrade of about 9 kilometers along between Kruger and the Matsulu community, and this came at a cost of about 14 million rand. And that's just putting it up, is not actually maintaining it. But I think the other important one is an elephant, if you want to go through a fence, it goes through a fence. Our last bit is, if an elephant is not out and is busy causing damage, we now know that fences alone is not a good solution. What we have to do is work with local people to find those solutions, and we've started doing quite a lot of that.
All right, Doc, let's leave it there for this one.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's Dr. Sam Ferreira. He's large mammal ecologist from Sandparks, and he's based in Skukuza in the Kruger National Park. Let's check in now with Ann Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, MK Party to march against alleged stolen election votes and calls for a protest in Zimbabwe. Good morning. The Thulasizwe Simelane will lead a Where Is My Vote walk from 8 o'clock this morning from the city of Tshwane to the Constitutional Court in Johannesburg in Gauteng. Kanyile will be joined by the party's Gauteng Provincial Detachment, Witness Nembe, regional leaders, members, supporters and activists of the party. MK Party Gauteng spokesperson Abel Tau says the party will hand over a memorandum to the Concord highlighting that the May 2024 elections were rigged.
We believe that the 2024 election results were rigged. Does not make numerical or statistical sense that the DA, even if it were to bring out all its voter base, that it can be bigger than the MK Party. We are of the view that the elections were rigged and that our votes were given to other parties or redirected elsewhere.
Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Mamuloko Kubai says it's important that all South Africans protect institutions that uphold the rule of law, especially the National Prosecuting Authority. Kubai opened a case of fraud, impersonation and obstruction of justice yesterday. This follows a weekend newspaper report purporting that she, Minister in the Presidency Kumbutso Ntshabeni and President Cyril Ramaphosa were working with the NPA to have Deputy President Paul Mashatile prosecuted. Minister Kubai spoke outside the Brooklyn Police Station east of Pretoria.
I've done this because it's important for us to protect institutions that are of democracy, but also that are looking at implementing our justice system. One of the critical institutions that must continue to be protected for its independence, that's NPA. We have seen previously how the issues of state capture have compromised our institution to the point that they've come to collapse.
Zimbabwe's Minister of Home Affairs, Kazembe, has warned those behind attempts to cause political and security instability in his country. There have been rising tensions in Zimbabwe over President Emmerson Mnangagwa's intention to remain in power after his second term ends in 2028. The country is bracing for what has been dubbed an uprising as Liberation War veterans rally ordinary Zimbabweans to join today's protests in their push to oust Mnangagwa. Kazembe has warned that the security services will not hesitate to deal with those fueling tensions both inside and outside Zimbabwe.
The government of Zimbabwe unreservedly denounces acts of terrorism and violence which unruly elements supported by a fringe group living outside the country intend to perpetrate on individuals and properties, thereby threatening the safety of the general public. The country's security services firmly stand on the side of law and order and will not hesitate to take decisive action.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he was very angry at Russian President Vladimir Putin, threatening secondary tariffs on all oil coming out of Russia. Trump was speaking to NBC News after reports emerged that Putin called for a transitional government to be put in place in Ukraine. Trump warned that if Russia was at fault for the lack of a peace deal with Ukraine, he would impose sanctions on countries purchasing Russian oil. Sharon Bryce-Peace reports.
The sharper tone from President Trump, known more for his conciliatory tone towards Russia, shows growing frustration on the matter. Trump warning that were Russia to prove unable to stop the bloodshed in Ukraine, and if he thought they were at fault, he would impose tariffs on oil coming out of Russia. Trump told NBC News he planned to speak with President Putin this week, who suggested recently that Ukraine be put under a form of temporary administration to allow for fresh elections that could push out Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Trump also announced he would impose a 25% tariff on the U.S. imports of nations that buy oil from Venezuela.
And finally, Muslims across the country will celebrate Eid al-Fitr today. The new moon was sighted in South Africa last night. The announcement was made to hundreds of worshippers who gathered in Cape Town. Eid al-Fitr is celebrated after the month-long fast of Ramadan, when Muslims abstain from food and drink from dawn to dusk. The month of Ramadan is also a period of prayer and reflection. President of the Muslim Judicial Council, Sheikh Rihad Fatar.
Working together with what is called the United Ulama Council of South Africa, we have a Hilal, a moon sighting group where people go out into various parts of South Africa to see if they can sight the moon. So in Cape Town, as you can see, it's overcast. Other places in South Africa is overcast. But Alhamdulillah, in the rest of South Africa, Musina and these kind of places, the moon was sighted.
Recapping the top story, the Thulasizwe Simelane will lead a Where Is My Vote walk from 8 o'clock this morning from the city of Tshwane to the Constitutional Court in Johannesburg in Gauteng. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
50 Rand petrol won't get you anywhere nowadays, but Outsurance is still dedicated to saving you money on your car insurance. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get monthly savings on your car insurance or cash in your pocket. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Heavy backlogs down to the airport. We've got about a 30-minute trip time. This is coming out of Pretoria down to OR Tambo International. About a 30-minute trip time into a crash just after the Bopsfontein exit. You'd want to off-ramp at Clayville at Olifantsfontein. Take the Pretoria Road. Come back on along that R23 High Road, which will get you back on and just keep you diverting and moving through that area. The N14 is heavy for motorists on the way to Pretoria, having left Krugersdorp from Muldersdrift up towards the crash scene just before Malabongwe Drive. Very heavy, and a crash opposite Soweto N1 North near the Soweto Soweto Highway exit quite heavy getting through Deepcliff, whether you're on the N12 or the N1 into Deepcliff interchange up towards Soweto, all heavily backed up. Durban breakdowns on the N2 around Spaghetti Junction. One of them is being cleared from the southbound, but there's still one on the northbound. So from the M7 Bluff exit up towards the Westwood Mall, you've got the breakdown and the roadworks. And Cape Town, a crash on the N2 going inbound just before Mowbray Main Road, pushing Monday morning traffic back as far as Boonga Avenue in Langa. And the N7 roadworks continue at Four Trekker Road with big queues already squeezing into a single lane section. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's soccer. Nazruddin Nabi admitting Amakosi is in a tough spot after another PSL stumble. And in rugby, South Africa's Blitzboks have slipped to fourth on the series standings following their 9th place finish at the Hong Kong Sevens. All this and more around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 11 minutes after 7. Good morning. We are into the second hour of the morning brief here on SAFM. Just reflecting on the conversation with Advocate Brenda Madumise Pajibo in the last hour that has to do with that incident in Matatiele where a child was raped in October last year, allegedly on the school premises and allegedly by one or more staff members of a school. Quite a bit of information coming through from education officials at the national level, also just sharing some of their own experiences of that incident. You'll know that we are told that there are two individuals who are persons of interest who have had samples taken from them by the SAPS after the case was opened, but a third individual, said to be a school principal in that area, has not subjected himself to that. And the perspective we are getting now is that the principal was advised not to cooperate. So we are told the principal was advised not to cooperate, and in fact, a letter being shared that was written by AfriForum, who seemed to represent this particular school principal. So that's one of the dynamics that's coming to the fore. Basically, the argument, according to that letter, being that the school principal in that matter is not a suspect, and therefore this unwillingness to subject himself to the taking of samples that seems to have stymied the investigation. But I wonder, what powers does the SAPS have when you believe you should be getting samples from a person and that person is not being cooperative? It just talks to, once again, I don't know, it still remains the issue of sluggishness. The energy with which this matter has been investigated leaves a lot to be desired. We would have wanted to have the SAPS come on board and give an account of what steps they've taken since this charge was laid, but they told us that they are not available because they consider this to be a sensitive topic. Well, all these matters are. They involve the dignity of a human being that has been violated. And it's not to find anyone guilty. That's why it is a rape, allegedly. The allegedly part comes into who committed it. Allegedly committed by one or more staff members at a school. We're being careful with the words that we are using, but the effect is the same. The incident happened. How far have you gone towards investigating it? That is the point. How far have you gone towards investigating it, eliminating or including people as suspects? That really is the essence of an investigation, isn't it? Anyway, enough about that. You may want to weigh in on this matter. I will gladly take your calls on it. In this hour, we will focus quite a bit on politics. So we'll talk about the ANC saying that while it's committed to restoring normal diplomatic relations with the United States, this will not be pursued at the expense of compromising on the principles that underpin the country's international relations policies. That is just one of the many aspects that our Samgele Masego will report on in the next few minutes. And off the back of that conversation with Samgele, we'll then talk to the DA's Ville Okamp, and we'll be talking about, it's just 2 days really before the deadline by which Parliament is expected to have voted to either accept, reject or amend the Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's budget that he presented on the 12th of March. And there's no sign of a political breakthrough between the parties in the National Governing Coalition. So Vili Okamp will come through and talk to us about the processes to try and find one another as far as that is concerned and ensure that the budget is passed. And also questions of how much of a red line would it be if the ANC managed to get the budget over the line without the participation and cooperation of the DA. So feel free to give me a call on these and other matters that may be exercising your mind this morning. The number to dial 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The second hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
The Hammers want to ease off the pressure with collection of 3 points at the London Stadium to rise from the bottom half.
We picked out Socek, and there is the goal! And he's scored a few this season!
However, the Cherries believe a top half finish will be a good cherry on top.
Crosses towards the back post, looking for Tavernier! Who side-foots it past Vicario! And that is brilliant from Bournemouth!
This is the Premier League. Be part of the thrilling contest between West Ham United FC and AFC Bournemouth on Saturday, 5 April at 3:30 p.m. Live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
17 minutes after 7. The ANC says while it's committed to restoring normal diplomatic relations with the United States, this will not be pursued at the expense of compromising on the principles that underpin the country's international relations policies. Specifically, member of the ANC's Subcommittee on International Relations, also International Relations Minister Ronald Lamula, says the party will not compromise on its belief in human rights and upholding international law, won't be asking government to withdraw its International Court of Justice case against Israel, and won't compromise on the pursuit of redress of past injustices here at home. Let's speak to Samgele Masego, senior SABC News political journalist. Samgele, good morning. So there was a lot of emphasis on international relations, diplomacy, the relationship with the United States on the third day of the NEC meeting. What else came out of it?
Essentially, South Africa or the African National Congress rather, is saying that they will not concede any of the cases, particularly on its stance on international relations, to the United States of America on a policy position. They will not be debating with the United States of America. They do not account to the United States of America on the policy positions the governing party recommends and is ultimately adopted by the current administration of the party. You've also seen that President Ramaphosa has said that it is his prerogative to appoint an ambassador. He obviously, in the words of the ANC ranks and other ministers, the president does not have to consult anyone in the appointing of ambassadors. That is not the statement of intent of the GNU. But ultimately, the DA said that they need a share in the international relations policy. They need to tweak the South African international relations policy. It is something that the ANC has heavily resisted. Hence, they are also resisting the pressure that is being mounted on the country by the administration of President Donald Trump in the United States of America, alongside businessman Elon Musk as well. So the ANC is essentially saying that the case at the International Court of Justice is going to remain put. Their foreign affairs policy will not be, or South Africa's foreign affairs policy will not be dictated to by the American government.
Just on the relationship within the government of national unity and particularly with the DA, what is coming out of that? I caught the glimpses that had to do with the DA saying that they would want to have more of a say and just the ANC needs to be more consultative in as far as prosecuting international relations policy, and there was pushback there from Ronald Lamula. But broadly, what is the ANC saying about the status of the bigger partner in that governing coalition?
That relationship with the Democratic Alliance is very shaky at this point of time, Thulasizwe. Just to go to the Northwest Province, the ANC in the Northwest Province is not working with the Democratic Alliance. They're working with the EFF. About 2-3 weeks ago, there was a joint caucus in the Rustenburg Municipality and the Bujanala District Municipality as a whole of ANC and EFF councillors in Rustenburg. For instance, in the Rustenburg Municipality, the ANC and the EFF have resolved to work together, and that would have not happened if Nonoma Lui, the provincial chairperson, and also Louis Dumarelo, the provincial secretary, had not gone to the ANC's headquarters in Victoria House to seek the ANC's approval in order to reshape the coalition governments that are currently there within the Northwest Province, to include the economic freedom fighters. So you can see that there is that gradual acceptance of the ANC of working with the economic freedom fighters at a national level. You can also visibly see the irritation of the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, against the Democratic Alliance. You just look at the joint steering and joint finance committee meetings last week Friday, where the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, dropped a bombshell that the DA had sent a letter to President Ramaphosa accepting the 0.5% VAT increase on a year financial year 2025, 2026, and 2024, 2025, 2026, that the Democratic Alliance was ultimately conceding that it will accept the 0.5% VAT increase, but is saying that you need to reverse key economic policies that have been taken by the administration that have been signed into law, like the Bella Act, like the NHI, like the Expropriation Act. The ANC saying that is not going to happen, forget about it, you'd rather look elsewhere. We would rather look elsewhere in trying to pass the budget. Hence, the negotiations with the economic freedom fighters have been happening vociferously over the past few weeks as well, where the ANC's chief whip, Mtumseni Ntuli, met with the EFF's chief whip. Even last night, the Democratic Alliance and the ANC had their own meeting. There was other meetings with other political formations. It is not yet clear who will ultimately be voting with the ANC when it comes to the budget. But I can confirm that the relationship of the ANC and the Democratic Alliance is very shaky at this point in time, particularly on an international relations policy framework and also the economic trajectory of the country.
All right, thank you for that. That's Samgele Masego, senior SABC News politics reporter, giving us an update there. In a moment, I'll be in conversation with the DA's Ville Okamp, just thrashing out a bit more those issues highlighted by Samgele then.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Often when we talk to people, we have to give context about a certain thing we bring up. But I can tell you now, just about everybody knows. When I talk about Kill the Boer, everybody knows about it. So let me ask you this up front then. Has it lost its purpose?
I think the same question should be asked. The portion that is Afrikaans in the national anthem, has it lost its meaning? I think we should also be asking, the song Senzenina, that was that time, which is still being sung now, has it lost its meaning? We should at the same time be saying, who dictates, who determines when is the song relevant and no more relevant? We should also be clear and see, where does this noise about the song come from?
Seth Mazibuko is patron of the Seth Mazibuko Foundation.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
SASSA Gold Card beneficiaries can still come and collect their new Postbank Black Cards. Avoid the risk of not receiving your grant. Join over 1.3 million beneficiaries that are already conveniently receiving their grant using the Postbank Black Card. There are multiple selected outlets nationwide where you can swap your SASSA Gold Card for the new Postbank Black Card. Dial *120 *355 hash to find one near you. Standard rates apply. Postbank, your bank.
Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
It's coming up to 25 minutes after 7. With just 2 days to the deadline by which Parliament is expected to have voted to either accept, reject, or amend Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's budget, there's no sign of a political breakthrough between the parties in the National Governing Coalition. Instead, cracks in the GNU appear to be widening, with the Democratic Alliance expressing its discontent over what it says is the ANC's refusal to share economic decision-making. Let's speak now to the DA's national spokesperson, Vile Okamp. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. So just starting with the conversations and engagements around getting a budget passed in Parliament, what is your sense? Where do we stand now with mere 2 days or so to go before it's put to the vote in Parliament?
It's a very good thing that I report on. 15 years ago, the Democratic Alliance started the ANC
No, that line, Vili, apologies, we're going to have to dial you back. That line is just not good enough at all. Just battling to hear Vili Okamp, and as I always say, we would want you to get the full benefit of hearing what he has to say. Yeah, but as we try and dial him back, just to recap, it is about the relationship between the ANC and the DA as one of the partners, one of the 10 parties that constitute this governing coalition. The DA saying that without a role in economic decision-making, it cannot contribute meaningfully to growing the economy and creating jobs, which they say is what the key objectives of the coalition were in the first place. I believe we have Vili on a better line. Vili, good morning once again. So you were telling us about where we stand as far as trying to find one another ahead of putting the budget to the vote. Yeah.
Yeah. Thulasizwe, 15 days ago, we supplied the ANC with a document stipulating our requirements for supporting a budget and what we need to have into that budget. 12 days, the ANC sat with that document, and they did not come back to us until 12 days later. On that date, they came back with a mandate from the president just saying, we do not support your document, and we expect the DA to bluntly support our budget because you are our coalition partner. And we said to them that that will not work. The Democratic Alliance is definitely not in this GNU to be a rubber stamp for ANC plans. We saw over 30 years what ANC budgets look like and what the devastation was that unleashed onto the country in South Africa. So we made it very clear that we will not be able to support that. And they then said that they will go and find support from outside of the GNU. Mm-hmm. We said to them that if you get support from the EFF or MK and the likes outside of the GNU, you must then govern with them. You cannot expect the DA to form part of a government where they did not have any inputs with regards to the budget. And the markets reacted to that. We sat over the weekend and we realized, and they realized, that they need to speak to us. So as we are speaking, there are negotiations carrying on, and I believe that there's a very, very good chance that by Wednesday, when the fiscal framework has to be voted on, we might have a deal between the ANC and the DA on this.
So that's quite interesting. This matter of the possibility of the ANC finding support to get the budget voted and supported and adopted by Parliament, was this or is this a red line for you as the DA? I know that you've been asked this question many, many times by journalists who seem to almost predict the downfall of the GNU at every turn. But is this it? Is this the red line for you?
It is very funny how journalists also always want to know that, and they're trying to get for the sensation of that. The bottom line of this is that the ANC have looked for support outside of the GNU, but they could not get that. So I think that is the first point that we want to make clear. But as I now said, we said to the ANC, if you are going to get support from somebody that is not your partner within this GNU, so if you're going to get support from outside, then you must govern with those people. A budget is at the core core of any government. And if they get this budget approved by using somebody else from outside, then they must govern with those people. We cannot be expected as the DA or any other party within the GNU that does not support this budget. You cannot expect them then to support the government, but it is a budget that they totally disagree with. It's just not workable. It will not be practical. So, and I think that the ANC has realized now with a shock to their system, because I still think that they are battling to get used to the fact that they are a 39% party and not a 50% party anymore. They need to speak to their partners in the GNU. The only way, practically, that the ANC will be able to get to 50% plus one is if they work with the DA, and hopefully this has now come to terms in their minds.
So on Friday, the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, telling the joint sitting of the two finance committees in the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces that the DA wrote to the President to say that they would be willing to support this budget with a 0.5% increase in the VAT in exchange for the government pulling slightly away from policies such as the Expropriation Act, as well as the implementation of programs like the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act and the likes, the contentious legislation recently signed. Why is that acceptable, that you would put issues on the bargaining table that have nothing to do with the budget?
Firstly, what he said is that the minister took one nitpicking item out of a document of 15 pages with a lot of different and other proposals. So he concentrated only on that one item. He did not concentrate on the cost-cutting measures that we had. He did not mention the fact that we said that the Deputy Ministers of Finance, which is Ashur Sarupan from the DA and Minister Masondo from the ANC, must co-jointly chair Vulindlela. They haven't mentioned that we said that RFIs for the concessioning of freight rail lines at Cape Town and Richards Bay airports, harbours must also be done. So he failed to mention a lot of that. The fact that the Expropriation Act is in this is due to the fact that the Expropriation Act stands slap bang in the middle of the road to economical growth. I'm going to read to you exactly what is in that document with regards to the Expropriation Act. It says, the Expropriation Act must be amended to align processes and sequencing to ensure the appropriate court approves compensation before a notice to appropriate has been issued, and to replace references to nil compensation with the constitutional formulation that says just and equitable compensation. We're not asking for the Expropriation Act to be scrapped. We're not asking for a 180-degree turnaround. We're just asking that we create economical surety by making it clear that a court will have the final say in this, not a government official on provincial, national or local level.
All right, Vili, let's leave it there for this morning. That's DA National Spokesperson Vili Okamp. Let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, a man believed to be linked to the murder of 6 patrollers at Marimi informal settlement in Shoshanguve in Pretoria is expected to appear in the Pretoria North Magistrates Court today. The Thulasizwe Simelane will lead a Where Is My Vote walk from 8 o'clock this morning from the city of Tshwane to the Constitutional Court in Johannesburg. MK Party Gauteng spokesperson Abel Tau says the party will be handing over a memorandum to the ConCourt highlighting that the May 2024 elections were rigged. And there's high security in Zimbabwe's capital, Harare, ahead of a protest called by Independence War veterans. They're demanding the resignation of President Emmerson Mnangagwa. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
There are some major issues around Gauteng highways this morning, around some crash delays. One on the N14 going up towards the Malabongwe Drive, Lanseria exit. This is for motorists driving from Krugersdorp on your way to Pretoria. crash before the 512 Malabongwe exit, and traffic all the way back into Mulder's Drift, even the side road. Now the 114 getting heavy with diverting pressures. Also a crash on the M1 North before William Mandela, so coming up from Randburg in the four ways, it's heavy. Crash opposite Soweto, N1 North near Soweto Highway. Some big traffic off the N12 West through Deep Cliff Interchange up into that one, and the N1 North arriving from Devlin, Eldo's being held up as well. Now the R21 situation to the airport, there's a crash. We didn't think it was that serious this morning, but the queue behind it is massive. It's about a plus 35-minute delay from Clayville, moving past the engine services through the Bopsfontein exit in towards that one. If you're leaving Pretoria, you've got to get to the airport this morning. Just know there's a major delay on that route. Make sure you've got plenty of time to get through. Otherwise, you're looking at some alternatives. Durban breakdowns, both sides of Spaghetti Junction, north and southbound, queuing quite heavily, either up to Umgeni or southbound towards Spaghetti Junction. Cape Town school holidays, noticeably lighter on some routes. Of course, it's Eid Mubarak as well, so that taking a bit of traffic volume out of the region. The big queue that we've got really is the N7 South, moving through Goodwood down towards Four Trekker Road. About a 30-minute delay as you squeeze from 3 lanes into one, just going onto that railway bridge. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you once again. So the good thing is I control my own microphone, so I can switch it on. The threat of being switched off if we say anything negative about Kaizer Chiefs is now live in the studio.
Choose your words wisely.
Our technical producer Zelma Klibi, you remember the thing that she said, that if you say wrong things about Kaizer Chiefs, I'll just switch it off. The mic won't come on.
But we are tired of the excuses. We are.
So with that said then,
how do you call them
I don't know, how are you going to navigate this story?
Are they amasoso? Because that's what
Zai?
Okay, let me not be silent, because that's about to happen. We'll talk about the coach very quickly. Nazruddin Nabi admitting his side is in a difficult position after their latest setback in the Premiership. Chiefs suffered that 2-1 defeat to Golden Arrows in Durban, keeping them stuck in 8th place on the table. It was their 10th loss of the season, despite dominating possession and creating more chances. With 7 games to go, Amakhosi are 6 points behind 3rd place Stellenbosch, but their inconsistent form is making a top 3 finish less likely. Moving along, Marumugalan stunned TX Galaxy with a 2-1 win at Mbombela Stadium, a result that gives their relegation battle a serious lifeline. Earlier, Polokwane City ended their 7-match winless run. 3-1 was their victory over Richards Bay, tightening the race for a top 4 finish. And SuperSport remains second last after a 0-0 draw with fellow strugglers Cape Town City. Elsewhere, Marcus Rashford got off the mark for Aston Villa, netting twice as Unai Emery's team made the FA Cup semi-finals with a 3-0 win at Preston. Manchester City fought back from behind to beat Bournemouth 2-1 and set up an FA Cup semi-final with Nottingham Forest. And we'll go to the Blitzbokkers. Their struggles also continuing in the Hong Kong Sevens. They finished 9th, their worst result of the season. Coach Philip Sneeman says the team lacked consistency, crashing out early after defeats to Australia and New Zealand.
A disappointing tournament for us as a team, for us as Springbok Sevens, and one to put behind us as quickly as possible. But we can't just put it behind us and sweep it under the carpet. We need to go and look at ourselves, and it starts with me. We need to have a hard look at ourselves, and if we want to be one of the best teams in the world, we need to be more consistent every single game, every single tournament, and not only rocking up for 1 or 2 games or 1 or 2 tournaments in the season.
And finally, MotoGP. Francesco Bagnaia won the 2025 MotoGP America's Grand Prix after Ducati teammate Marc Marquez crashed out of the lead. Alex Marquez on a Ducati satellite bike took second for the 6th time, moving 1 point clear of his older brother in the championship standings. Fabio Di Gianantonio was on another Ducati satellite, finishing 3rd. South Africa's Brad Binder forced to retire due to technical issues. Here's the race winner, Francesco Bagnaia.
I'm really happy, even if it's not one of my best track, because it's the first win I have here. I'm super happy. The feeling was fantastic, and this is the way we have to continue working. I know that it's not finished yet, because I need to do another step, but today we did a very good step in front.
We'll be back in the fast lane, top of the hour for SAFM Sport. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Ndauling Lechela. And Ndauling, Bell Equipment is one of those interesting ones, right? Because they're into, they do this, what they call yellow plant, yeah?
Yes.
So they are a measure of the kind of activity, construction and the likes, mining and the likes, yeah?
That's right, Thulas. And they also just give us a glimpse into what's actually happening in those industries, because when their earnings are down, it kind of does point to, downbeat activity in both the construction and mining industry. So that group out with numbers and not really looking good. The group reported a 13% decline in revenue to 11.7 billion rands, which resulted in profit falling 41% to 471 million rand. The decline was due to weaker market conditions, including reduced demand in industries such as construction and mining. Now, despite the challenging year, the company is cash positive with net cash flow of 458 million rand, an improvement from the previous year's outflow. Now, the group has been expanding its international footprint, establishing a new parts logistics center in South Carolina and the U.S. to support its growing business on that front. The company has a strong global presence, and it seems like they're trying to grow that presence even more. They currently have 112 independent dealers and 22 Bell-owned branches in the country. It also operates 2 manufacturing facilities in Richards Bay and Germany. Now, in a recent development, the Bell family, which holds about 70% of the company, made a bid to take the group private, offering minority shareholders 53 rands cash per share. But that bid failed to garner sufficient shareholder support. Despite that, a family member, Ashley Bell, who took over as CEO of Bell Equipment last year in January, continues to run the business.
Tell me about Novus challenging the takeover regulation panel's decision on this Mastech acquisition.
That's right, Tula. So Nova's contesting the takeover regulation panel's decision to withdraw its approval for the company's mandatory offer to acquire shares in Mastech. Last November, Novus acquired over 35% of Mastech's shares, triggering a mandatory buyout offer. Initially, the TRP approved Novus's firm intention announcement on November 15th, but last month the TRP ruled that the DK Trust, a Mastech shareholder, acted in concert with Novus during the transaction, now leading to the TRP's unilateral withdrawal of its approval for the firm intention announcement. Now, despite the TRP's ruling, the Competition Commission endorsed the proposed takeover last month, finding no evidence that the transaction would substantially lessen competition. Now, the commission imposed public interest conditions, including a 2-year moratorium on retrenchments and preferential employment conditions for employees retrenched by Mastech before the merger. Novus intends to appeal the TRP's ruling on an urgent basis, citing impropriety. The company remains committed to the mandatory offer process and will implement it under applicable legislation.
And lastly, Ndauling, please give us a recap of market activity here at home and elsewhere in the world.
So Asian markets kicking the week off in the red. This, of course, as risk is off, as traders await the implementation of President Trump's next round of tariffs. The announcement of levies on the auto sector spooking Japanese markets in particular, as big car makers based in the Asian country assess the impact this could have on production. With that, the Nikkei losing the most on that front, down 3.9% this hour. Trade concerns also weighing on U.S. markets as the April 2nd deadline looms. Ahead of that, U.S. futures are in negative territory. Locally, markets also feeling the pain. The All Share losing 0.36% in Friday's close, and the Rand starting the week on the back foot, slightly weaker at 18.43 to the dollar this hour.
All right, that's Ndauling Lechela. She'll be back with one more update, and that's coming up just after 8:30 here on the Morning Brief, in which update she will also give you a sense of what kind of a trading day you can expect in the markets on this Monday.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Sipho Mantula with that Africa update. Let's start with the SADC mission, Sipho, and tell me about the SADC reaching an agreement with M23 rebels. This has to do with what? Facilitating the withdrawal of Summit DRC troops?
Absolutely, Tula. Refreshing and jump Africa to the listeners. Tula, the meeting at the Serena Hotel on Friday concluded with a meeting led by General Ibrahim Mohona, who was representing President Samia Sulu on the SADC Troika, and M23 represented the Major General Sultani. That's how they've agreed to the issue of the withdrawal, the repairing of the Goma airport, the free movement in terms of preparation of the withdrawal, but also the state of readiness of the Goma International Airport. It seems that they have reached one another so far, because for almost 60 days, the SADC mission has been trapped in Goma and outside Goma in Sake. Now, others have now lauded this phase, because this has been long coming to us since January. Only now towards April, we see now there is a light in terms of engagement between major generals. South Africa was also represented in this meeting. Malawi, Botswana was also represented through the Troika. So Zambia too was part of the meeting, and the governor of North Kivu, DRC.
Let's cast our eyes over to Sudan, Sipho. Tell me about the army chief, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. He's talking tough against the RSF, isn't he?
That is quite true to us, because you see the army chief Abdullah over this weekend, he has occupied now Umdurman, which is the twin sister of Khartoum, and he's still insisting to us that he will not reach out the hand of reconciliation with Rapid Support Force, and I think that is what is needed in any conflict. And you will recall that also on Friday, when the former President Thabo Mbeki addressed the question of Sudan, he actually lamented on the role of the AU, how they have dealt with the question of Sudan in terms of engagement between RSF, between the government of Sudan. But now what has happened now, it seems that they've occupied the other city, also the commercial hub, which is the South Libya, within the capital city. Now, RSF, it seems it is losing traction to us, but the humanitarian crisis become the center of this crisis also.
Closer to home, Sipho, tell me what's happening in Zimbabwe. There seems to be quite a bit of jitters, and there's a lot of tough talk around these protests. And I was just watching it and thinking to myself, it's a protest. It happens, doesn't it?
Yes, it do, but for me, I have opted to pick it up from different levels and lenses, because we might be looking at it, but when you look at from the Vice President's office, Chiwenga, from the business young man who has been linked on this with Nel Chivayo, from your political analyst and academic Eldred Wakamasungwe Guru told us that how they view this as the early 1990s, when we'll have a mass action in Zimbabwe. What they've seen that Gaza has brought, you don't plan a what I'll call Tulas uprising. You don't plan it, first of all. Others are saying we have called for a stay away. Others are saying also the fraction between the ZANU-PF. But Chiwenga coming very clear to say, I'm not the mastermind behind the 31st movement, or what they call the M25. So it seems the month of March in SADC, there's a creation of this M23, M25, March 31st to M31. It seems now Chivayo brand this march or this protest as an act of terrorism, accusing Blessed Bombshell Gaza of inciting violence from exile, because nobody knows where Blessed Gaza is. The same case of Venetia Mondlane at some point, but we see this as smoking of a peace pipe between Chapo and even Venetia. We don't know Blessed Gaza with the ZANU-PF generals, how they will reach each other to us, because yes, there is a threat, but the government, it is already, as we have heard, even on the news clips that has been going on since this morning.
Yeah, so I'll be in conversation with Lenin Debele shortly, just for an update on that situation as well, Sipho. Tell me about the AU ECHO 2025 edition. You're saying they've extended their call for entries. It's an interesting one, isn't it, given the theme and who they are making this call to contribute to this edition?
This is very interesting because I thought it's a Monday morning. Conflicts have been there. Now, for our intellectuals and for our scholars, policy drafters who are listening, the AU has a unit that deals with information, communication. Now, every year you have a theme of the year. Now, they push. Today it is the deadline or the lifeline for those who are writing to send their thinking. It's almost 1,500 words to us in English or French, just to look at the theme of the AU, which is the theme of reparations, justice for Africans and the people of African descent through reparations. A heavily loaded, considering what has been happening in terms of access to justice, historical crimes that have been committed against Africans from the then OAU to the African Union. So if you have to understand that, it's just what I'll call an intellectual knowledge that Africans, wherever they are, they have to share with the AU in terms of policy directives and policy interpretation.
And then lastly, Sipho, in your historical archives, you're taking us to 31 March 1991. What happened of significance?
So that it's almost 34 years ago, there was this chap called Donald Dolan Acheson, who was an Irish, and who was fingered at killing the lawyer from Windhoek, Anthony Lubisky. It's very important that he worked with the then apartheid Civil Cooperation Bureau. This matter happened in 1989 to us, but this guy was let off the hook. He had to go back to Ireland, but he was supposed to have been extradited to Namibia to answer the assassination. The same like Janus Walu's story again, a script, history repeating itself to us of what has happened. When you look at the case of Janus Walu's, and it was always the issue that people will always dispute on the date, whether it was on the 31st of March or on the 1st of April. As we know, tomorrow it's a funny day that people must not be trapped on the April Fool's Day to us. But we are not talking about Donald Acheson, who was left off the hook, an Irish assassinator of Namibian activist of SWAPO, Anthony Lubisky, the human rights lawyer. Asante sana Tulas, Eswatini leading the conversation, SFM observing the human rights month.
Sipho, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula with your Africa update here on the Morning Brief.
Algerian giants, the People's Club, plan to impress their home fans with victory before traveling to Mzansi, while the Buccaneers want to triumph away and complete the party in Orlando in the second leg. This is the first leg quarterfinal clash of the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Experience the incredible action of African football. MC Alger battles it out with Orlando Pirates on Tuesday, 1 April at 9 p.m. live on SABC 1, SABC radio stations and SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SASSA Gold Card beneficiaries can still come and collect their new Postbank Black Card. Avoid the risk of not receiving your grant. Join over 1.3 million beneficiaries that are already conveniently receiving their grant using the Postbank Black Card. There are multiple selected outlets nationwide where you can swap your SASSA Gold Card for the new Postbank Black Card. Dial *120 *355 hash to find one near you. Standard rates apply. Postbank, your bank.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Two very busy highway routes in Gauteng are badly backed up around some crash scenes this morning. Both of them have alternative route local options, and both of those situations are busy as well, with motorists diverting out of the main carriageway. So we're talking N14, Krugersdorp Highway, driving towards the Lanseria, Malabongwe 512 exit. The traffic into that is all the way back to Muldersdrift, the 114 alternative fairly jammed as well. And a big crash delay coming out of Pretoria en route to the airport. The crash just after Bupsfontein Road, that is heavy. We're tracking about 30 plus minute delays, and a bit of congestion on the Pretoria Road that runs to beside the R21 down towards Whitfield as motorists clog that up as well. The highways around Soweto are fairly busy. A collision near Soweto Highway going N1 north, coming off the N12. That's back to Uncle Charlie sort of territory on the N12 west to get into that N1 via a Deepcliff interchange side. Durban, two breakdowns. One north and one south on the M2 around Spaghetti Junction. Southbound it's heavy from Inanda Road, northbound up from Booth Road Bridge past that obstruction through Spaghetti and then into the roadworks around Westwood Mall. Cape Town, Jakes Curvell Drive, jam-packed again today. We enter week 3 of roadwork, single lane section between Four-Trekker Road and the Railway Bridge. And just watch out for a crash. It's only just happened. Middle lane obstructed, N2 out of town by Rappenberg Road. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So tensions are high in Zimbabwe ahead of national protests called by some of the country's liberation war veterans alongside ordinary citizens. And those protests, we are told, are set to take place today. Ahead of the protests, dubbed an uprising, state officials have been at pains to reassure citizens about the country's stability and to condemn the planned protests. At the heart of the protests is a belief that, despite his consistent denials, President Emmerson Mnangagwa is contemplating seeking an unconstitutional third term. I'm joined now by Lenin Ndebele, who is a senior international and Africa journalist. Good morning to you, Lenin. Thank you for your time. Give us the background and backdrop to these planned protests. Is it just about the issue of the possibility of extending Mnangagwa's term of office, or are there other issues being put on the table?
Primarily, it's about the term extension, but as it is, it's also about corruption that is currently underway, happening in the country. Yeah.
So who is Blessed Geza? Because it seems that's the name that has come to the fore, is being mentioned quite a lot. Who is Blessed Geza, and is he the man at the forefront of the cause for the protests?
Geza is a war veteran and is a former parliamentarian and is also a former Central Committee member in ZANU-PF. He was recently expelled. If you recall, in November 2017, he was part of those war veterans that called for the ouster of Robert Mugabe. So he's the face of this movement, but it's understood he's somewhere in hiding in South Africa, since it's been wanted by the police in Zimbabwe. So pretty much he's leading this thing when he's away from the country and no one knows where he is.
And why are the officials in Harare seemingly a bit jittery about it all and wanting to go out of their way to emphasize the strength and the might of the state and the stability of the country? We've heard words such as cyber terrorists being used. Why the jitters about a protest?
Well, there is suspicion that he is working with some elements in the military. If you have seen his exports or his daily updates, he's always in military regalia. So there is suspicion that he's working for people in the military, and he's calling for Vice President Constantine Chiwenga to stand up and rise and take over from President Mnangagwa. So basically, it's all about him being a front for some elements in the military.
And then tell us about the changes that President Mnangagwa has been making in the military leadership. They're not coincidental and insignificant, are they?
Oh, they're very significant because he just removed the army commander for the ground forces, Anthony Tanyake, and made him a minister of sports. It was a sudden shock for everyone because Tanyake was a key player in the 2017 push, and he was also a key member in keeping ZANU-PF in power post-2018 elections. So Tanyake is largely seen as an ally of President Vice President Chiwenga.
And how much popular support do these calls enjoy in terms of the ordinary citizens, non-aligned, the opposition political parties, Citizens Coalition for Change, and the likes?
Well, the opposition has been dismantled in Zimbabwe, to be honest, and you find Nathan Chamisa is stepping away from these calls. He's not even involved in any way, and Zimbabwe has learned to hard way. Remember, in 2017, he took to the streets, but at the prayers of the military. But right now, no one from the barracks has come out and said, guys, get to the streets. Up and until you see the army fighting with the people, you won't see any people on the street. Everything right now is just quiet because this is a holiday. Most people didn't go to work, some didn't go to school, but they're supposed to be business as usual, but there's no one on the street really. There haven't been any matches.
And the litany of voices, Lenin, that has been coming to the fore to either condemn the protests or to just declare that let's make this a business as usual kind of a day. Just tell me about that, those voices from religious leaders to business and the likes. Is that something that's typical, that is unsurprising, that you would have voices lining up to express themselves in that way?
The culture so far in Zimbabwe, we made it a hard way. So you find that the business will have a wait-and-see approach, or even the religious leaders will have a wait-and-see approach because no one knows what's really going to happen. I mean, everything right now is 8 a.m. Anything can happen in midday. So it's really that situation where we just watch and see. Just watch and see. You don't really know what's going to happen. So no one will really be out there in the public to create a false statement.
Right, Lenin, thank you for your time this morning. That's Lenin Debele. He's senior international and Africa journalist, just giving us an update on the situation in Zimbabwe, a situation that we will continue to watch and look out for more updates throughout the day here on SAFM and across the SABC News channels. Speaking of that, let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news.
In our top stories, suspects to appear in court in connection with Marry Me attack and police on high alert ahead of planned Zimbabwe protests. Good morning. A man believed to be linked to the murder of 6 patrollers at Marry Me informal settlement in Shoshanguve in Pretoria is expected to appear in the Pretoria North Magistrates Court today. The 27-year-old faces charges of murder. 2 other accused persons appeared in the same court last week, and their case is due back in court tomorrow. Nomtsikilelo Mtabela reports.
The suspect will be the 3rd individual to be arrested in connection with the tragic incident. The 2 who were initially arrested made their first appearance at the Pretoria Magistrate Court on Wednesday last week on charges of possession of unlicensed firearms and live ammunition. They are due back in court tomorrow. The matter was held on camera as an identity parade is yet to be conducted, and therefore both accused cannot be identified. 12 patrollers were attacked while on patrol 2 weekends ago. 4 died on the scene, while 2 others succumbed to their injuries in the hospital.
The Thulasizwe Simelane will lead a Where Is My Vote walk from 8 o'clock this morning from the city of Tshwane to the Constitutional Court in Johannesburg in Gauteng. The walk is expected to take 14 hours. Kanyile will be joined by the party's Gauteng Provincial Detachment Witness Nyembe, regional leaders, members, supporters and activists of the party. MK Party Gauteng spokesperson Abel Tau says the party will hand over a memorandum to the Concord, highlighting that the May 2024 elections were rigged.
We believe that the 2024 election results were rigged. Does not make numerical or statistical sense that the DA, even if it were to bring out all its voter base, that it can be bigger than the MK party. We are of the view that the elections were rigged and that our votes were given to other parties or redirected elsewhere.
The ANC says it will not be withdrawing its case at the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, against Israel. South Africa took Israel to the ICJ last year, accusing it of genocide for the thousands of people killed in Gaza following the October 7th Hamas attack. Speaking at the party's NEC in Boksburg, east of Johannesburg yesterday, ANC NEC member Ronald Lamola said the country will not compromise on its stance against Israel.
There are issues of progressive internationalism which we cannot compromise on. That includes the issue of the ICJ. So, on the ICJ is an issue of international law, which has to be respected by everyone. And South Africa, this is a matter which we will not withdraw from the court, which we have already put. It's a matter that we believe it has to be dealt with on its merit. So this is a matter that we will not compromise on.
Muslim worshippers say while they will be celebrating Eid al-Fitr today, their thoughts are still with the plight of the Palestinians. Worshippers gathered in Sea Point in Cape Town last night for the sighting of the moon, which marks the end of the holy month of Ramadan. The day will be observed with early morning prayers, acts of charity such as feeding the needy and visiting family members, as well as the graves of loved ones. Worshippers are calling for an end to the conflict in Gaza.
We are enjoying Eid in South Africa, but the people in Palestine, they won't be able to enjoy it the way we are going to enjoy it. But all we can just say is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala place sabr and contentment in the hearts of those people in Gaza.
It's wonderful to see how the people of South Africa comes together, especially our brothers and sisters of Islam come together, and they bring us some sort of comfortability and belonging.
And finally, there's high security in Zimbabwe's capital, Harare, ahead of a protest called by Independence War veterans. They're demanding the resignation of President Emmerson Mnangagwa, accusing him of economic mismanagement and planning to stay in power beyond the end of his second term. The BBC's Shingai Nyoka reports.
The police have increased patrols in the capital city and banned the carrying of weapons ahead of today's planned protests. Some people told the BBC that they were planning to stay at home, even as the government urged the public to go about their usual business without fear. A group of war veterans, many who are in hiding, have called for protests against proposals to extend the president's term of office. They are also believed to support the vice president. The police have warned that they will arrest any protesters.
Recapping the top story, a man believed to be linked to the murder of 6 patrollers at Marimi Informal Settlement in Shoshanguve in Pretoria is expected to appear in the Pretoria North Magistrates Court today. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very heavy backlogs on the N14, the Krugersdorp Highway from Muldersdrift all the way up to a crash scene just before Malabongwe Drive. That is badly affecting motorists coming off Krugersdorp area up towards Pretoria this morning. And the R21 crash just after Bupsfontein, still badly backing traffic en route from Pretoria down towards the airport. We're tracking delays still around 30 minutes to get through that. Make sure you don't get caught. The highways around Joburg are busier than you might be expecting this morning. N1 Randburg to 4 ways in the N3 Germiston up to Bedford News, Galooly, Interchange. Durban, we've had a couple of breakdowns around Spaghetti Junction all morning. They've finally been cleared. That's good news, but they've been replaced by another one that's just broken down on the N2 North, going up towards Gateway. So from Kumashu Highway, it all gets a bit busy on your way to King Shaka into that obstruction. Cape Town, the N1 into town, busy this morning from sort of N1 City through to Koeberg Interchange territory. And there's quite a backlog on Mike Pina Boulevard. If you come off the N1 Highway, Yiptiaga, and turn south past the hospital, the traffic lights down there at Mike Pina and Tinny Mayer are not working. That's causing quite a big delay around Cape Town this morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SAFM Sports Headlines. Soccer, Royal AM's off-field drama heating up. The wannabe buyers in trouble, and that's with SARS once again. Let's find out more, as well as the top team of the United Rugby Championship, Leinster. They're praising the Sharks for their performance. We'll find out more at around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, good morning. We are into the third hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief. It's good to be in your company. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. We are reflecting on quite a number of the conversations that we have started over the last 2 hours. Key among them, of course, have been the conversations around what came out of the National Executive Committee meeting of the ANC, what the ANC has been saying about no compromise in terms of the foreign policy of South Africa and what drives that foreign policy. But also in the same vein, we've been hearing from the DA in the last hour. I spoke to Willie Okamp, who was saying that the possibility of the ANC seeking support for a budget that one of the key coalition partners, the DA, opposes so vociferously in seeking that support from parties outside of the governing coalition was going to be something of a red line for them, because they could not continue to govern with a budget they do not support, but a budget that was supported by external parties outside of the government of national unity. Willie Okamp telling us that there seems to be a glimmer of hope. The parties are now engaging once again, the DA and the ANC. Where will it all end? Where will it all end? Is this how governance will look for the coming next few years? That, things such as the budget will be subject to a give and take of some sorts. I asked Willie Okamp, for example, about why it is that they were placing the issue of the Expropriation Act and saying amend the Expropriation Act and the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, those kind of policies that they don't support, in exchange for supporting and voting for a budget that includes that 0.5% percentage increase in value-added tax. He did give that answer that says there was more to the proposals that we gave to the president. So that's one of the stories that I'm just reflecting on that came out from the last hour. But of course, that incident in Matatiele, it continues to be something that is shocking the nation, but at the same time calling for accountability for those who are in charge of investigating that crime, the rape of a 7-year-old child allegedly at a school and allegedly by staff members of that particular school. One of the people implicated, a principal at the school in Matatiele, being advised by AfriForum. A letter has been shared where AfriForum was basically saying to the police investigating this matter that asking him to subject himself to the taking of a sample for DNA comparison is tantamount to abuse of process, because at least according to this letter from Gerinel of AfriForum Private Prosecutions, that he is not a suspect. He's not viewed as a suspect. What exactly is the position? Wouldn't you and I benefit from the police taking us into their confidence and telling us once and for all and clarifying whether the school principal is or is not a suspect? Wouldn't that help all of us along with this conversation and then enable us to say, well, if the incident happened in October, why is it that after the taking of the samples from 2 other people of interest, how is it that we sit here at the end of March and we don't have a suspect that has been arrested? A lot of these conversations are coming to the fore about the investigation of cases of sexual violence. So engage me on that and other issues that may be exercising your mind this morning. I'll take your calls. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The third hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Get unbeatable football odds with SuperSport Bet. From derbies to title deciders, our Super Boosts give you boosted odds you won't find anywhere else. Switch today and get a 100% deposit match up to 5,000 Rand. SuperSport Bet is licensed by the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. Bookmaker license 10191097. No persons under the age of 18 are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. National Responsible Gambling Program. Toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help 076 675 0710.
The Hammers want to ease off the pressure with collection of 3 points at the London Stadium to rise from the bottom half.
We picked out Socek, and there is the goal! And he's scored a few this season!
However, However, the Cherries believe a top half finish will be a good cherry on top.
Crosses towards the back post, looking for Tavernier, who side-foots it past Vicario, and that is brilliant from Bournemouth.
This is the Premier League. Be part of the thrilling contest between West Ham United FC and AFC Bournemouth on Saturday, 5 April at 3:30 p.m. live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
14 minutes after 8, let's take a few of your calls this morning. Let me start with a call from Kevin in Cape Town. You want to talk to me about the DA and the ANC. Good morning.
So how are you doing?
Very well. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to let me speak.
Sure.
About the ANC and the DA, I have a problem with the coalition. I think the DA also has a problem with the same thing that I'm going to speak about. The ANC fell short of the majority vote, which landed them with a 39% vote from the people, which they fell short. So they went into coalition. They made a clause into the constitution that should something like this happen with the with the leading party, they can collate with another party and make themselves majority. I don't have a problem with that, but that reform of the constitution benefits them. To what extent? I want to know. Every time now the voting date was set to vote the ruling party, there was a date set for that, for the voting. It happened. The clause helped them to maintain their standard, to maintain the position, and it's going on. Now, we have a party that's ruling with two parties. Now, the thing is, the question to me is, every time there is an objection by the two parties, there's a talk of them falling out and getting involved with another party. Now, to me, as a person that thinks that I'm safe, you mean that the voting date was on the voting day?
Yeah.
Now it was all set who's going to rule. Now, 3 or 10 months down the line, you have a problem with your coalition.
All right.
And now you're talking about jumping out and going somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now, my question, I want to place this question. Is it lawful that you can just jump out of the ruling party whenever and go to another party when the voting date was set on that day?
Sure.
For who you vote?
Kevin, thank you for that. That's Kevin in Cape Town. Well, as far as coalitions go, the way I understand it, you are at large to form and break any coalitions you want, as long as it gets you over the threshold of being able to form a government, right? Even if it is a minority government. So nothing unlawful about switching coalitions. It's something that happens all the time at local government. Look at the city of Joburg. Whether or not it's beneficial, that is a separate debate altogether. And again, I say, look at the city of Joburg. The multiple coalitions have led to instability, and many Joburg residents would tell you that as a result, service delivery has suffered, falling through the cracks in all of that politicking that has happened. Temba in Protea Glen, good morning. You want to talk to me about struggle songs this morning?
Yes. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm good. It's so disappointing that when you are a child, adult, the so-called adult, and referring to parents, they teach us not to tell lies. We must always stand with the truth. On the later stage, you realize that now the very same adult people, they are deviating from the truth.
Okay.
I'm speaking on behalf regarding the struggle song. You hear adult people defending the struggle. These are adult people. I'm talking about Amatoto Mozi.
Which struggle song specifically, Temba? Tubulipun?
Yeah, kill the poor, kill the farm. And when they say a poor, referring to a white person, but when they check it in, what's the meaning of a poor? It's a farm. It doesn't refer to a person. When we are saying Dubuli Bunu, we are not specifically shooting a person, but an influential politician to say, no, kill the poor. We are building something else to ordinary people. That's manipulation. And what is the ulterior motive for that politician to sing that song?
Yeah.
Obviously, is to attempt genocide against a specific group.
You think so?
Why did you go? Why the lawyers of South Africa went to ICJ? It's a similar situation with the Palestinians, but now in South Africa they want to beautify it and say no, it's a struggle song.
Right.
But
Temba.
where there is a kill, if I say to you, I'll kill you. That's a death threat. You'll report me. But when I sing kill the bull, then it's a nice thing. Understand me?
Temba, thank you for that. That's Temba in Proteacland. The important context, of course, two things. The song in question, as far as I read the case, is the singing of Dubuli Bunu. And I know that there's a bit of a conflation where people say the song is Kill the Boer song. No. The song, as far as I understand it, was the one that says Dubuli Bunu. So if you were to translate it literally, it would say shoot the Boer. Not that I'm saying, but there are two distinctions there. The song is Dubuli Bunu, not the chant that says kill the Boer, kill the farmer, as far as I understand it from that court case that I read. And then secondly, the reasoning, of course, is that it wasn't meant to be taken literally. The court's saying that no reasonable person would take it literally. It is a struggle that's about addressing economic and land injustice. And I think we discussed it at length. But as you heard there, Temba has a very different take from some of what you've been hearing. All right, I'll continue. I'll take more of your calls in just a moment.
So you've heard our insurance clients talking about all the money they saved when they switched. You've thought about getting a quote, but you're not sure if they could save you money on your car insurance or if it's worth the effort. Well, make today the day you get an OutSurance quote. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. If OutSurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Monthly savings on your car insurance or cash in your pocket. Either way, you're a winner, like Tulani.
Fast, helpful, efficient, everything was so smooth. I saved 530 bucks.
Make today the day you switch and save. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With OutSurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Masandawana have a master plan to win in their own backyard to ease off the pressure before the trip to the north. But the Beast of Africa want to demonstrate why they are also called the Smiling One. This is the first leg quarterfinal battle of the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Do not miss out on the delight of African football. Mamelodi Sundowns versus Esperance de Tunis on Tuesday, 1 April at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC Plus. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Let me quickly start with one or two voice notes and then I'll come back to the calls. I see all of your calls. Vuyo, Maxwell, Freedom and Sam, I'll come to you in just a moment.
Good morning to us in the SAFM listeners. I just wanted to weigh in on this matter that happened in Matatiele. When, as a country, are we going to declare war on rape, sexual assault, and other forms of abuse towards women? Because this has been going on for so long. It has been going on for so long. When are women ever going to feel safe? Because they're raped at home, they're raped in the communities, they're raped at school. Where are women going to feel safe? This is so annoying. This is a scourge. Imagine how it feels if it is annoying to us as men. What about women who are subjected to such abuse and such ill treatment? I am Mahasa from Reneging.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, Mahasa, there. It's one of those situations where we're all quick to declare that women abuse is the second pandemic, quote unquote, in this country. But by way of action, and not just from government, for a change, this is one of those issues where we should all be involved, right? It shouldn't be left to let government fix it. It's not one of those situations. So, I mean, it's one of those, I absolutely agree with you. None of us is free for as long as women are not able to enjoy this freedom that we prize so much in our country. And in fact, speaking of that, then let me take a call from Freedom in East London, if I can get the Freedom. You also want to talk about crime in the Eastern Cape. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Thulasizwe. You know, we have a problem here. It's not only the Matatiele, although we are so happy to be highlighted. Firstly, if you have maybe someone is raping you, or is hijacking you, taking your property, or whatever kind of victimization, there is no number. The 10111 emergency number is not working. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we know who are the guys, the criminals behind. Because we find out there's a taxi owners and the police, they collide. They are making money. Whereby they will stop you on the road and say that because you have your own family or your colleagues, they will take your car, forfeit it, and want a ransom of 1,500 up to 5,000 rand. If you refuse to do that, they're going to beat you. If you are a woman, they're going to rape you. It's like it's an occasional thing that is happening. It's like it's a way of life that we're living in here in the Eastern Cape. And I don't get it, why the government just become quiet. And you are asking Mr. Trump not only help those 70,000 white people, please help too the black people, because, I mean, the crime, you can't survive.
Mr. Trump.
I come from Johannesburg, Mr. Thulasizwe. I can walk in the street of Hillbrow very freely. But now you come to the rural areas of Eastern Cape. Everyone wants to attack you, and it's just quiet. There's no police. You can't report it. Not only the police station are far, but even there is not even you can try with 111. It's not working.
Thank you. I can sense your frustration, but I just wanted to be clear. When you say you're asking Mr. Trump to help, you're talking about the one and only U.S. President Donald Trump.
No, any person can help, because Trump doesn't go to meetings and talk for example, now. It will be the talk of the town. There's no one who can act and say that in East London, in public Oxford Street, we cannot let the taxi owners to come and take the cars and ask ransom money. We can't, even if, let's say, we are Gaps, Mr. Gaps and Queen Anna, you know those stories. They are there. These guys, they are the chairperson of Eastern Cape border business.
Freedom, thank you. Freedom, thank you for that. Yeah, no, I get your point and I get your frustration. I've got to move on, though. That's Freedom there in the Eastern Cape. Maxwell, you want to talk to me about the ANC National Executive Committee and its outcomes. Good morning.
Good morning, Thulas, and I guess you had a good weekend, but I heard you didn't because of what happened in Durban.
What happened in Durban? Please go ahead.
Thulas, this issue, when you covered a lot of issues, and I'm very satisfied about, because when you begin, there was a heated argument where I didn't know where the DA stand on this budget, but now I know that they are confident. And remember, the government of national unity, Thulas, it won't be easy. It's a new waters for all of us. We don't know how it operates and works, but at the end of the day, there will be always a way. And if you're meeting about the relationship with USA, why are we thinking to go there to send delegation to USA to mend waters, because it's clear to us the USA government under Trump, they've made up their mind. They put a lot of untested allegation about the country, while they know that it's all about Israel and the relationship. And look at all the countries that are being threatened by tariff hike from the USA. It's not South African only. This is a threat from the USA just to make us feel strong. We can live without them, I strongly believe. Then sending delegation to USA, I think it will be a waste of money and taxpayers. And the suggestion by President Mbeki that we need to kneel down to USA, whatever it takes, I don't agree with that one. If they are bullying us, let them bully them as well. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you for that, Maxwell. I don't think it's as much an issue of kneeling down and groveling before the USA, but the sense I'm getting is that such is the influence and importance of this relationship with the United States, not just for us. It's a major player. Let's not kid each other. It's a major player in global affairs. And if there is a pathway that leads to a normalization of relations, you should at the very least do your best before you walk away and say, we tried everything. I think that's really that sense of responsibility that I'm picking up. I don't know, you may be reading it as groveling and begging the USA, but I do suspect that the sense is that we want to be able to say, when it doesn't work out, we tried everything. Vuyo in Matlosana, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about the the abuse of power. You're saying that's abuse of power by increasing VAT?
Yes, good morning, Thulasizwe. Thulasizwe, I will stop talking about the abuse of power by ANC. How can you take your money and give it to other country citizens, and you come back, you raise tax and you demand it from your own citizens? Because ANC, the government is giving a lot of money to children grants to other countries' citizens. Let's take, for example, if we give 500,000 children 500, how much money do we spend to children of the other countries' citizens?
Yeah.
And they are not getting that money in their country. What they should do now is they should deport people and see how much money will they save from this grant. It will be billions to us. Now they have to tax us so that they can replace the money that they are spending.
Yeah, Vuyo, thank you for that. Yeah, that's Vuyo and Matlosana there. Just some perspectives on what's driving the need to increase VAT, and saying if certain matters that he highlights there were to be addressed, there would be no need to increase VAT. And Musa is on standby with your latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, KwaZulu-Natal Human Settlements MEC Siboniso Duma has announced they've found land to build permanent houses for the 1,069 families displaced by floods in the province. A man believed to be linked to the murder of 6 patrollers at Marimi informal settlement in Shoshanguve in Pretoria is expected to appear in the Pretoria North Magistrates Court today. And international humanitarian agencies are stepping up aid deliveries in Myanmar 3 days after it was struck by a huge earthquake. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still really heavy on that N14, the Krugersdorp Highway. If you're just joining us, a big crash this morning before you get to Malabongwe Drive, the 512 and Lansiri exit, if you like. Traffic all the way back to Moulders Drift area. If you're coming up from Krugersdorp, coming in from Oak Tree, if you like, get to Pinehaven. Think about alternative routes before you get caught in either the N14 or the 114, the side road that's pretty heavily backed parallel to it as well. R21 south towards the airport stays busy. Off its worst, but still queuing up to a crash scene just before you get to The Benoni exit, probably just after the Bopsfontein exit is where that crash is in reality. The M2 coming through central Joburg. Joe Slovo down to Crown is heavy. Looks like there might be a breakdown before you get into Crown. And a crash now, Deepcliff interchange on the link off the N1 onto the N12 down to Uncle Charlie. So N1 north and south backlogging there. Durban queues both ways, pretty heavily backed between Kumashu Highway and Gateway, both sides. Heavier going north actually to the airport with a breakdown just for the Gateway exit. And Cape Town's easy Monday, combo of school holidays and Eid celebrations. The real standout, though, and this will be a problem across the course of today because it's such a busy route, is the single lane section that you divert into on the N7. Jake Scoville Drive southbound at the railway bridge. Big delays getting through Goodwood. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, it doesn't rain, it pours for Royal AM and by implication the Premiership, right?
Yeah.
Because that conundrum, for a moment it looked like it was going to be solved, but no deal.
No deal. No deal. And I think when you've got SARS on your case, you don't need defenders. You need a good lawyer. You know anyone?
Yeah.
No.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. All right. We'll hold that one for now. Maybe they need a miracle. That's Royal AM because their off-field drama is heating up. The wannabe buyers of the troubled football club, Roy Mudley and his son Mageshpran, are facing possible legal action. Their attempt to purchase Royal AM at last week's auction collapsed after they failed to pay the agreed amount on time. Now, SARS, who appointed a curator for the sale, says the Mudley family breached the agreement and could face the long arm of the law for the damages. This saga leaves Royal AM's future in limbo, and with the clock ticking on their remaining league fixtures, relegation is looking more likely. In the meantime, elsewhere, Maximilian Bayer scored twice as Borussia Dortmund won 3-1 at home to Mainz in the Bundesliga, keeping their slim hopes of European qualification alive. Now, the Blitzboks, their struggles continued at the Hong Kong Sevens, where they finished 9th, their worst result of the season. Coach Philip Snyman says the team lacked consistency, crashing out early after defeats to Australia and New Zealand.
A disappointing tournament for us as a team, for us as Springbok Sevens, and one to put behind us as quickly as possible, but we can't just put it behind us and sweep it under the carpet. We need to go and look at ourselves, and it starts with me. We need to have a hard look at ourselves, and if we want to be one of the best teams in the world, we need to be more consistent every single game, every single tournament, and not only rocking up for one or two games or one or two tournaments in the season.
More rugby. It was a nail-biter in Durban as Leinster edged the Sharks 10-7 in their United Rugby Championship clash at Kings Park. Despite the loss, the Sharks forwards earned big praise from Leinster captain Max Deegan and coach Leo Cullen, who admitted their side struggled at scrum. Cullen commended the Sharks' physicality, while Deegan says it was an unbelievable, difficult time facing the South Africans' power up front. On to cricket, Australia's Mitchell Starc claimed his first 5-wicket haul in T20 cricket to help the Delhi Capitals down the Sunrisers Hyderabad for their second win in the Indian Premier League. The Rajasthan Royals beat the Chennai Super Kings by 6 runs to record their first win of the IPL. And finally, we've got some news from golf. Michael Hollick ending the current Sunshine Tour season in the same way he started, with victory and the DNI Tour Championship at the Blair Athol Golf and Equestrian Estate. That's how we wrap it up. More sport around 12:30 with John Hediker. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndauling Lechela. And Ndauling, for this third update, I'm just trying to find my way to... Tell me about Capitec's Gerrie Fourie resigning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's right, Sila. So big news out at the end of last week. One of the founders and CEOs of one of the fastest growing banks in the country, Gerrie Fourie, will be stepping down from the top boss spot at Capitec after nearly 30 years with Capitec. Fourie will retire in July. Now, Fourie's tenure saw the bank transform into a leading digital financial services provider with significant growth in share price and profitability, as well as the addition of nearly 20 million new customers. Fourie will hand over the reins to Graham Lee, who has been with the bank since 2003. Lee has held various strategic positions within the bank and has been a member of the group executive team since 2022. He is currently the CEO of the personal banking division. Nabasani Maluleke will succeed Graham Lee as group executive of the personal bank division. Maluleke, who joined Capitec in 2021, previously served as CEO of African Bank. Now, to ensure a smooth transition, Fourie and Lee will work together over the next 4 months. Markets, in the meantime, seem nervous about the move, with the share price down close to 3% in Friday's close.
Darling, I was just wondering about this. I mean, this must be some kind of a record from the Competition Tribunal. When was the decision? Was it in November or something?
In October,
Vodacom massive deal. And we sat without the full reasoning of the prohibition until, 31st of March?
So that report was released, I think, on Friday, late.
But still,
So been quite a while. The Competition Tribunal finally releasing its reasoning for blocking the merger deal between Vodacom and Maziv, pointing to concerns over anti-competitive effects that would impact millions of South African consumers. Now, the proposed transaction would have combined Vodacom with Maziv, a leading fiber infrastructure player owned by Remgro. Now, Vodacom was set to acquire a 30% stake in Maziv with an option to increase its stake by 10%. The tribunal found the merger would have permanent anti-competitive effects, outweighing its limited public interest benefits. It said the deal's impact would be felt across various markets, affecting access to the internet and data services and ultimately impacting millions of South African consumers. Now, key concerns raised by the tribunal include, of course, anti-competitive effects that would be permanent and impact markets, limited public interest benefits that do not outweigh the negative competition effects, implications for millions of South African consumers who require access to affordable data and internet services. Now, this sounds very similar to the Compcom's recommendations, which both Vodacom and Maziv are said to have worked on before heading to the tribunal. Now, in a last-ditch attempt, of course, to get this merger over the line, Vodacom and Remgro will head to the Competition Appeals Court in July. At least now we do know why they've blocked the deal, and I guess that case can go ahead.
Yeah, it helps them to also frame their own appeal now that they know what is the basis of that prohibition. So it will be an interesting one to watch going ahead. Finally, Ndauling, it's a Monday today. What kind of a day can we expect in the markets for this Monday?
So local markets likely to extend losses today following global peers. Not much company news as earnings season slows down here at home, but all eyes are on the parliamentary budget vote set to take place this week. And looking at currencies, the rand on the back foot this morning, it's sitting at 18.43 to the dollar. This, of course, as the dollar strengthens ahead of the big tariffs, which are set to come into effect on the 2nd of April. Meanwhile, in the U.S., futures in the red as traders remain concerned about Trump's trade policies. Over in Asia, stocks on track to end the day in negative territory as that trade deadline looms.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ndauling Lechela there. She's been watching business, the economy, as well as the markets for you over the last 3 hours here on The Morning Brief.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
The Hammers want to ease off the pressure with collection of 3 points at the London Stadium to rise from the bottom half.
We picked out Socek, and there is the goal! And he's scored a few this season!
However, the Cherries believe a top half finish would be a good cherry on top.
Crosses towards the back post, looking for Tavernier! Who side-foots it past Vicario! And that is brilliant from Bournemouth!
This is the Premier League. Be part of the thrilling contest between West Ham United FC and AFC Bournemouth on Saturday, 5 April at 3:30 p.m. Live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
17 minutes to 9 here on SAFM. Let me turn to this story now. The Inkatha Freedom Party, the IFP, is rolling out its year-long celebration of its 50th anniversary. A huge celebratory rally about a week ago, marking the start of the party's Golden Jubilee. Founded by the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi on March 21, 1975, the IFP has played a significant role in South Africa's political landscape. The celebration will include a national prayer day in KwaZimela, followed by a rally at the stadium in honor of the party's half-century journey. I'm joined now by Mkhulego Hlengwa, who is the IFP spokesperson. Good morning to you, Mkhulego. Thank you for your time. So the IFP has evolved from a cultural movement at its founding to a political party under the apartheid years, the Bantustan of KwaZulu years, and now in democratic South Africa. Overall, holistically assessing the impact of the IFP and its strength at 50, how do you assess that?
Good morning, Makoto, and to the listeners of SAFM. Thank you very much and for this opportunity. Well, I think we are celebrating the ups and downs, the very long road we have traversed, reflecting as well as a party on the road that lies ahead. And I think we are speaking of an IFP that is in a stronger position on a regrowth trajectory, as we have seen in previous elections. You will remember the electoral setbacks we have suffered. If you look at 2011, when we were only left governing 2 municipalities, which as I'm seeing in Ulundi, we are now governing some 25 municipalities. We are leading the provincial government of KwaZulu-Natal, participating in the government of Gauteng in that GPU, and also part of the GNU. Also, we are speaking of a party that is growing. If you look at our membership numbers, just this past weekend, we had our NEC meeting, and the SG his office is halfway through the auditing process, and we'll be in a position to really say what is the state of the IFP in terms of membership, and you look at the strength of our structures. Now, you, of course, in your intro, you speak about the IFP as a cultural liberation movement, which, of course, at its founding, that's the name it was given. But it must be understood in the context that was a guise, because political parties were banned at the time. And so when Kenneth Kaunda spoke to Prince Buthelezi in 1974, he said he must found a membership-based organization. And that is what happened in 1975 for political mobilization, and this, of course, with the expressed consent of the ANC mission in exile under the leadership of the President General, Mr. Tambo. Secondly, Thulasizwe, I think we will have to maybe one day revisit the notion of Bantustans. The Bantustans were the TBVC states. KwaZulu was never part of that because Prince Buthelezi refused the balkanization of the country, and so KwaZulu remained part of South Africa.
A homeland,
So we've traversed a long journey, and we're rolling out these celebrations and reflections. We'll be going to Thokoza, for example, in Gauteng, where Prince Buthelezi and President Thabo Mbeki had unveiled a memorial of the victims of the black-on-black violence between the IFP and the ANC. We're going to Ngwavuma, where we prevented, under the leadership of Prince Buthelezi, when the apartheid government wanted to cede off Ngwavuma to then Swaziland, which is today Eswatini, ensuring that the people of that area remained South Africans. And then, of course, the legacy of service delivery.
So, Mkhulego, we'll turn to issues of service delivery in just a moment, but just your critics have some really harsh words to say and an assessment that's quite harsh for you and the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. To what extent do you believe you can shake that off, the sense that you are a prisoner to your history, the rivalry that you allude to with the UDF, the ANC and the associations with the apartheid regime? To what extent do you believe you've been able to shake off that sense that you are a prisoner to history, or you can successfully shake it off?
Well, we're going to continue telling our story. 20,000 people died in the low-intensity black-on-black civil war, 12,000 of whom were IFP members. Secondly, you'll recall what Mr. Mandela said, referring to Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, and to quote him, he said, "We have used every ammunition to destroy him. He's still there. He's a formidable survivor. You cannot ignore him." I'm yet to hear those critics unpack for us what that statement meant. What was that ammunition? And so while we celebrate this 50 years, we are, of course, because we are a party involved in political work, we expect that there will be criticism. But by and large, there's a misreading of history, there's propaganda. And of course, the man who wins the war writes the book, and that's the story of 1994. And we fundamentally believe that the IFP has a role to play, has played a role. Winnie Mandela in the book refers to Prince Buthelezi as a freedom fighter in his own right. There's recorded history of Nelson Mandela exchanging letters with Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. The IFP held rallies under the Free Mandela ban. And there's a long history of documented. But what is unfortunate, of course, is the parting of ways in the London meeting in 1979 between the IFP and the ANC. And we fundamentally believe that us retracing our steps in the manner that we are actually doing a huge justice to South African history, because we will be peeling the onion and speaking the things, the difficult truths that have not been spoken.
Do you consider it a problem for you as the IFP, Mkhuleko, that you don't seem to be gaining traction in some provinces, right? In provinces beyond the KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, parts of Gauteng, Mpumalanga. So growth in provinces like Limpopo, the Northwest and the likes is not at the level at which you would want it to be, including the Western Cape, for example. Do you consider that to be a problem for you, for a pathway to power?
We consider it as a apex priority, and it is receiving our urgent attention. We've just opened up our offices in Northwest as part of the National Expansion Program. We are keenly focused on ensuring that we consolidate the base on one hand, and we see this as an opportunity for the IFP to spread its wings, and we are going to be launching activities in other provinces as well. Deployed teams of members of the National Council have already been finalized, and that work is currently underway. So we are a party in progress and a party on the growth trajectory, building on our gains and strengthening our base, and that will look to expansion into other provinces.
Lastly, Mkhuleko, you participate in this government, of course, the coalition government known as the Government of National Unity. What's your assessment of the strength of that coalition, and in particular and very specifically your approach ahead of the expected vote for the budget? Will you be supporting it?
At the primary instance, no government of this nature is not without its problems. And of course, it's the first time South Africa experiences a GNU arising out of an electoral performance in the manner that we do. So we believe that there are learning opportunities that are there to develop frameworks on how this government should work, including but not limited to the GNU clearinghouse, the constant meetings of the leaders. And so we believe that the GNU is strong and is going to be able to meet the demands of the country at this point in time and last its term. And of course, we are going to a budget question on Wednesday. After careful consideration, notwithstanding the challenges and the complexities which have arisen, we believe that we rather err on the side of caution at this point in time for the country's sake, and that we do need to pass the budget. And so the IFP will be supporting the budget. We have moved from a VAT increase of 2% to one of 0.5%, with the express commitment that that will be reviewed, and we are going to be ensuring that come the MTBBS in October, we make further interventions to ensure that we stabilize the finances and strengthen the fiscus. The country is in dire straits. And lastly, of course, this is a pro-poor budget. If you look at the continuation of the social interventions that are there, you look at the expansion of the zero-rated items so far as VAT is concerned. The infrastructure projects are job drivers, and therefore they will be able to solve part of our social challenges. It is a difficult budget, but at the same time, the country can't be left stranded or at ransom without the ability to roll out programs.
All right, thank you for that, Mkhuleko Hlengwa. There you heard it first here. Mkhuleko Hlengwa, the IFP spokesperson, saying that they will be supporting the budget after careful consideration, given everything that's on the table.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still queuing up on the N14. This is the run from Mulder's Drift up towards the Lanseria exit. If you're Pretoria bound on the Krugersdorp Highway, it's that crash has been with us from before 6 o'clock. It's taking a while to clear away. M2 coming through from Joe Slovo into Crown, stays busy downtown central Joburg, and a crash through Diepkloof on the N12 eastbound down towards Uncle Charlie's. N1 from Soweto, N1 from Devlin, all backed up through the Diepkloof interchange in towards that crash scene. Not too bad, but there is some queuing pressure down there. Durban, the collision scene on the N2 north of Gateway is being cleared. The breakdown on the N2 south after Gateway has also been cleared. That traffic level busy, but it's a recovery mode rather than a sort of one that's getting worse. And Cape Town, well, it's Easy Monday. It's a combination of Eid celebrations and, of course, school holidays. The N7 south is very slow, though, getting through Goodwood. That'll be a problem all day, and it'll be a problem until the single lane section is lifted. The single lane there just past Four-Tracker Road. It's one of the busiest roads in Cape Town. You effectively come from sort of 3 lanes into 1, and it gets pretty heavily backed up and stays backed up. Will be worse during the peak time, afternoon drive time. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Kathy Motlatlana on SAFM.
If you're ready to talk, I'm here to listen, and nothing is off the agenda. Join me on The Talking Point every day from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on SAFM.
SASSA Gold Card beneficiaries can still come and collect their new Postbank Black Cards. Avoid the risk of not receiving your grant. Join over 1.3 million beneficiaries that are already conveniently receiving their grant using the Postbank Black Card. There are multiple selected outlets nationwide where you can swap your SASSA Gold Card for the new Postbank Black Card. Dial *120 *355 # to find one near you. Standard rates apply. Postbank, your bank.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Let me start with a quick voice note before I move on to the calls this morning.
Yeah, as to Matatiele rape case, criminal justice system of our country is very lax. Law enforcement agencies of our country are very, 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 very poor, if you like. So those two items must be treated as a matter of urgency, or else those ministers must step down one time. Thanks.
Yeah.
Really in Kuma.
Thank you for that. I can't agree with you more on that there needs to be a sense of urgency and prioritizing how we deal with these matters. Let me take your calls now. Let me start with Ntlantla in KwaZulu-Natal. Good morning to you, Ntlantla. You want to talk about the ANC and the DA? Ntlantla?
Thank you for taking my call. My brother, you see, I've got a problem with the ANC and the DA. For violating our constitutional rights, which are set on Chapter 10 of the Constitution, basic values and principles that govern public administration.
Sure.
Yeah. Where it says people needs must be responded to, and the public must be encouraged to participate in policy making. NC and they already came up with a labor amendment policies which are going to go in the parliament. But the thing is, most of these policies are it's like they want to violate the equity to Section 9 of the Constitution, of which indemnity is approved by Section 9 of the Constitution, and they want to change everything and to promote slavery work in our country, please.
Sure. No, thank you for that, Nhlanhla, and that's an important conversation that you raise that we should bring onto the table and see if we can take it forward as a conversation. And Nhlanhla, they're talking about the issue of consultation in lawmaking, especially when it's going to impact ordinary South Africans in the manner that he describes. Mbuso in Midrand, good morning. You want to talk about the budget this morning?
I put Thulasizwe.
Ngiyaphila kunjani?
Ngiyaphila. It's actually Khumbudzo, not
Khumbudzo, yes. Sorry about that.
No.
I'm strangling someone immediately after this. The one who told me it's Mbuso. Please go ahead.
And it's actually not the budget. So there's a conversation we had with a gentleman about the eThekwini Municipality.
Yes.
Where there's a set budget for
the rebranding. Yeah.
Yes. I just wanted to share my 2 cents. I actually felt the gentleman you spoke to, I can't remember his name, he raised a few valid points to say we cannot have a government where we are saying there's a budget rebranding when there's so much service delivery that's not getting to the people, right? I mean, if the government is saying rebranding works, they should give us a report. I mean, they've branded before, right?
Yeah.
They're saying they're doing this to attract whatever. They need to come back to us and show us, say, okay, this thing has worked. We are doing it because we believe it will also work. But in this day and age,
sure,
we have let's issue among water.
Yeah,
it's a serious issue, and I honestly believe just set for rebranding could be utilized towards that.
All right, Khumbudzo, thank you.
That's my comment.
Thank you for that. The line to you did let us down here and there, but I think we got the gist of the point that you are making, that we can't be spending on rebranding without accounting for what was done with maximizing and using the brand as it was before, as well as in the face of the challenges that you mentioned there that continue to, to be a major problem in parts like eThekwini. Well, that's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. Thank you for listening and thank you for your engagement. The Talking Point with Kathy Mohlahlana is up next here on SAFM after the news with Ann Musa.
In our top stories, KZN government finds land to build houses for flood-displaced families, and aid efforts intensify after deadly Myanmar earthquake. Good morning. KwaZulu-Natal Human Settlements MEC Siboniso Duma has announced they found land to build permanent houses for the 1,069 families displaced by floods in the province. This includes the 41 families who were displaced by the February floods in Lamontville. These families are currently living in rented buildings called transitional emergency accommodations. Salma Patel reports.
In a statement, the KZN Human Settlements Department say they have had fruitful discussions with the Shallcross Ratepayers Association regarding the tension over the relocation of the flood victims to the area south of Durban. Among the terms agreed upon with the ratepayers are service delivery and recreational space for the community that has been prioritized. The department says they will also work through isiZulu King Misuzulu Kazweletini to utilize land under the Ingonyama Trust to build homes for the flood victims. The MEC is also urging communities not to build houses on riverbanks, wetlands and other areas that are prone to flooding as the impact of climate change intensifies.
A man believed to be linked to the murder of 6 patrollers at Marimi Informal Settlement in Shoshanguve in Pretoria is expected to appear in the Pretoria North Magistrates Court today. The 27-year-old faces charges of murder. 2 other accused persons appeared in the same court last week, and their case is due back in court tomorrow. Nomtsikilelo Mtabela reports.
The suspect will be the 3rd individual to be arrested in connection with the tragic incident. The 2 who were initially arrested made their first appearance at the Pretoria Magistrate Court on Wednesday last week on charges of possession of unlicensed firearms and live ammunition. They are due back in court tomorrow. The matter was held on camera as an identity parade is yet to be conducted, and therefore both accused cannot be identified. 12 patrollers were attacked while on patrol 2 weekends ago. 4 died on the scene, while 2 others succumbed to their injuries in the hospital.
7 illegal immigrants arrested during Operation Valamgodi at Simile Township in Mpumalanga are expected to appear at the Sabi Magistrates Court today. The suspects, aged between 18 and 67, were found in possession of illegal mining equipment. They've been charged with contravention of the Immigration Act of South Africa. The ANC says it will not be withdrawing its case at the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, against Israel. South Africa took Israel to the ICJ last year, accusing it of genocide for the thousands of people killed in Gaza following the October 7th Hamas attack. Speaking at the party's NEC in Boksburg, east of Johannesburg yesterday, ANC NEC member Ronald Lamola said the country will not compromise on its stance against Israel.
There are issues of progressive internationalism which we cannot compromise on. That includes the issue of the ICJ. So, on the ICJ is an issue of international law, which has to be respected by everyone. And South Africa, this is a matter which we will not withdraw from the court, which we have already put. It's a matter that we believe it has to be dealt with on its merit. So this is a matter that we will not compromise on.
And finally, international humanitarian agencies are stepping up aid deliveries in Myanmar 3 days after it was struck by a huge earthquake. However, they are warning that resources are scarce. The World Health Organization says hospitals in the disaster zone are overwhelmed with injured people. Michael Danford from the UN's World Food Programme is in the capital, Naypyidaw. He says damage